Hello, everyone. We're super tiny.
Oh,
Let me
slow
just.
down there with that talk. People assume things.
Let me just fix that. Do, 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 do. Okay. Nope. Please, please. Got one and got two. There we go. Ah. Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is a strange stream for me. We're doing a just chatting. We're just gonna be talking about stuff tonight. Um, and I guess I should put some non-copyrighted music in the background while I look for that. Hi, Anino. I don't know. Do you want to like introduce yourself?
Hey, I appear a lot on this channel nowadays. More so on this channel than my own channel. But my name is Anino. I use he/him pronouns, and you can find me on Twitter at Anino Gaming when I'm not on this channel. So rock on.
So, we got some real life stuff going on, and so that's why we're not doing Cyberpunk tonight. But I felt like streaming something, so yeah, that's where we're at the moment. There's a few things I want to probably tease for all of you who are here tonight, um, and then um, and then just hi Mark songs, and then just I don't know, talk about a bunch of stuff, game related, not game related. If you have any questions that pertain to campaign building or anything really, we're doing good tonight. We're doing good. Doing well, I should say. We're doing well. We're not doing any good per se. Let me just put all of these little
How was your
songs
week,
on.
by the way? I mean, we've been pretty busy, so that was for you, Simon.
Oh, yeah,
How's
yeah.
your week been?
Very busy. See, I need my tea so that I stop coughing. By the way, I'm not sick. I just have some problems with the throat. Um, yeah, I wrote. Shit, I made the count earlier. I think I wrote somewhere near 17,000 words this week.
It was
Probably,
a
yeah,
lot.
more than 17, because 17 was just on the three documents that I checked. So yeah, I was pretty much creatively burnt out. Not that it's a bad thing in itself. Um, I do enjoy creative stuff. Words are hard tonight. But yeah,
Apparently.
so sorry, doing multiple
So,
things at once. I'm not
so
used to
just to,
this.
I guess, I guess that I've never really had to um, count how many words I write in a given week. But I suppose to put it into perspective that I might understand, how many words is the minimum to be quote unquote successful at NaNoWriMo? Is it 50,000?
It's 50,000 words for a month. So right
Yeah.
now I would be.
So,
Yeah, no, go ahead.
yeah. So, doing some math there, that's you would be on pace for about 70,000 words.
Yep,
You'd
and
probably be
that's my day job.
shriveled and dead, but yeah, you know.
Yeah, but in addition to that, I have like all of the other stuff that I need to write, such as like game prep and all that. But yeah, this week was fun. I got to finally make some very tangible progress in some of the. This is not smooth music. I'm gonna put something else, I think. But yeah, it's got made some tangible progress on a lot of the milestones that I had set myself. And I think there's right now one more thing that I need to work on that was on my docket for the week, and that's the overlay for our Sentinels game.
Ah, yes. It was a pretty cool trailer that you had created for that. Very marvelly.
Yeah. All right, I want to stop those instead, and I'm gonna do this. And we're just gonna have some
Mark
sweet.
songs.
Yeah. Oh, Mark songs. What's your thought on the Champions of Psychology? They were discussing how helpful gaming, specifically D&D, can be for mental health. So what do you guys have to say about this topic? Good question, Mark. Yes. Yes, it is. Any type of roleplay is, in my opinion, good for therapy, mental health therapy. You can, in a way, safely explore parts of either your could be a trauma that you're working through, could be some other other issues, maybe I'm not going to say it can solve low self-esteem or anything, but like whatever it is, it allows you to explore these areas of yourself, and but doing it in a way that you don't put yourself at risk, because it's through the lens of like another person, which is the character that you're playing. And I've seen some very good games made for therapy. I mean, I wrote one. I'm not gonna say that it's the end all be all, but mine's about grief and how to process it and letting go of the past. But you have many other games, and D&D can be one such game where you're just going to play something, let your mind go, play a game, and eventually, and that's what I love about roleplay, is eventually you will naturally like go into whatever it is that you wanted to explore. And maybe you'll do it subconsciously, but you'll touch on things that you might not have thought about prior to that play experience. So, for example, you could have someone who, at the end of a campaign, will say, "Oh wow, I didn't know how much whatever character name insert character name is was like me." And yeah, you discover facets of your personality, of yourself, that are very sometimes very hard to find by just centering on yourself and doing introspection. So yeah, roleplay can help exteriorize some things. Can also help you process through grief, trauma, and whatnot. And yeah, I wrote Journey to the Black Mountain, which is on itch. I don't like shilling for myself. Itch.io/whatever my username is supposed to be. I think it's just Wandering DM. Nope, it's not. It's that the opposite. WanderingDM.itch.io. Let me put that in chat. There we go. Mark, what do you mean? Ground rules for that kind of thing? Oh, you mean like exploring, using like the game as a means of therapy? Um, there are some games where this is something that I will, um, I will put forward. Like as a rule, I'll say yes. In this game, I do want to explore X, Y, Z, and that's what we're gonna that's what we're going to do. That's why we're going to play that game. In most games, though, I tend to not want people to use me or my game as their own therapy sessions. Yes, role playing games can be a very good tool. But the thing is at the same time, none of us around the table are therapists. I'm not a therapist. If I allow you to explore some things and I don't do it right, I could cause, permanent damage. Um, it's not something that you want. You don't want someone, let's say, who says, I want to explore, um, or they might not even say it, but maybe someone has a whole problem with, I don't know, they lost someone recently to COVID. Let's take a like example like that. Um, and it's not something that we discussed prior to playing the game or whatever. And then I insert an NPC that dies due to a wasting disease. Like there's a plague in a village or whatever. I didn't think about what that could. And of course we have safety tools for that, but that's like a whole other issue, a whole other topic. Um, like just by saying or just by introducing my players to this scenario where, yeah, people are dying from a wasting disease, I might actually like trigger some trauma in some or a lot of the players, or even one player in general. It's not something that I want to be responsible for. So while I do want and will always advocate for role-playing games as like therapy, at the same time, your GM or your DM could be, you know, a therapist. Like your therapist should be your GM, and that might, allow you to do more. Yeah, I might wanna. I might have said, yeah, trigger their grief or trigger the trauma linked to that grief. Yeah, I had like PTSD in mind, and my brain is not doing good tonight. Me no talk well. But
It's been a long.
it has been a long week. Um, and yeah, um, that's mainly it. I mean, we have. So I touched about safety tools very quickly. There are a bunch of panels that are available as VODs that we did in conventions. I myself spoke on one. I don't remember when. I also do a lot of talk about safety tools and in the cyberpunk universe. I've been doing the rounds of a lot of like podcasts and channels about that. And like the tools are there to help. Um, yes, that's exactly it, Mark. Um, I'm not I'm not the therapist. I'm not the person, the professional you should be seeking. I will do my best to be supportive, of course. But at the end of the day, I don't know what I'm doing. Um, and yeah, the safety tools are good for that. There's a few issue that I have with some type of safety tools, and it's not that I don't like them or anything. It's just that I feel like they could be tweaked. Um, we often talk about the X card, which is probably one of the most popular. Thing is with the X card, it's an after the fact thing, or an in the fact thing. And also, there's the whole point about X cards not being used by the players because they're afraid to speak up, and then they might, then you have the buddy system, which is one step like better, where you have another, you ask another player, can you play the X card for me? Um, and with that, like you'll have more, um, a better experience at the table, and less damage caused uh, to the players. I don't know if that makes like some amount of sense. Um, I'm a big advocate of lines and veils, though. I want to know beforehand, what is it that you do not want to see, you do not want to have, because that way I can make sure that these things never happen. And then, the thing is, you have to remind your player also, that lines and veils, and I call it the living document. I have a document that I send to my players, when we sit down, during session 0 and everything. And I like to remind people that that document is a living document. It can be updated at any time. And I try very hard to look at it before every game session. It doesn't happen as often as I would like, but it's also a great way to, if something occurred in your life just recently and you're like, I don't want to talk about it, or I don't want to have this, I don't want to be confronted with this, then it's a good idea to have it in the lines and veils right away. And the other thing that I suck at, and Nino can also, ooh, words. Well, I forgot the end of my sentence, but um, and can also talk about it a bit. As a GM, one of my biggest issue is to check. Like, I check in with players during the game, especially if I see that something might be going on with them, like judging by their facial expression or just their body language. But often, I will go in one direction for a character, and it's more character centric than, and it might also be on lines and veils and safety tools, but it's mostly about play experience. That I'll go in one direction, and I don't necessarily check with the players if they're enjoying what I'm doing. And sometimes they've had an idea, and my execution of it wasn't exactly, in the same direction. Not that they, like, it should be exactly as the exact scene down to like the exact actions, but mostly like, oh yeah, my character was on a vengeance quest, and I would have liked to kill XYZ person, and we end up going somewhere else completely. And Nino can attest to that. That's the word I was looking for earlier. With our Cyberpunk game, where for a long
Sure.
time not that I ignored um, Jimenez's like wrestling matches, but in my mind, I was always focusing on like this is something that happens at the beginning and at the end of the campaign, like, because there are a certain amount of days in between. But at the same time, um, like, you don't see X doing his thing in the meantime. It just serves as like a flavor, if you will, at the beginning and at the end, instead of the meat of it, of what it could be. And that is something that I'm constantly working on, even after now 23 years of GMing. What are some pretty neutral but fun
So,
campaign scenarios? Oh, yeah, no, go ahead, Nino.
yeah. Sorry, I was just going to look at um, Mark's next question, which was neutral but fun campaign scenarios that you feel most comfortable will be a positive experience for most all of your players. I really think that depends on um, what you're doing campaign wise. Um, you know, I've been in a number of streams at this point, and all of the ones that I felt that were really successful or that everybody really enjoyed them was due to the fact that they were really fun and engaging session zero session, get-togethers and meetings that discussed basically what everybody wanted out of the game and campaign, as well as building ideas, because then it's really a collaborative storytelling, story building experience. So you usually end up with a scenario, a custom scenario there that everybody will absolutely enjoy.
Yep. I don't have anything else to add on that. You basically went through. I really need to wake up a bit better at the moment. I really need to kick myself into gear and be more focused. But thanks, and for being here tonight and helping
Sure.
out with this, with my first. I think it's my first official Just Chatting stream. Like in the
It's
Just
been a while. I
Chatting
remember
category.
you've done a couple of these. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think most of them were like
I guess the other ones that you've done were you were doing game design stuff. Yeah, that's
yeah,
fair.
like I was working specifically on a game and I just wanted to have people to talk with, I remember I solo played one time Wasteland, and another time I played Rangers of Shadow Deep, and that was a while back, I believe. But yeah, while I was chatting with people and everything, it wasn't really the just chatting category. Like I was doing something else and talking at the same time. Whereas tonight I'm
Sure.
literally just well, I would say I'm literally just chatting, but honestly, judging by what's happening to me, I'm not. I'm barely talking and making sense at the moment.
Origami Shuriken asks, what are some of your favorite aspects of your current campaigns, either the mechanics or story?
Do I talk about the trading card game?
I mean, I figured we were probably going to talk about Sentinels of the Multiverse because I've been dying to talk more about it. And this wait until we launch that has been kind of killing me. Point where I'm just at the point where I'm actually tweeting about it every day.
I know.
Which has been
I
fun.
saw. Well, it's not pathetic.
No.
Far from it. Is that the word you said? Pathetic?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little self-indulgent because it's sort of a look at all of these professional comic book artists I managed to convince to draw my original character. That sort of thing.
Okay, so to answer your question, Origami, I'll start with all right, I'll start with the ongoing campaigns, and I'll keep the upcoming campaigns for last, just because. So, one of the things that I greatly enjoy in, I'll start with Scion. I think Scion should be the first one. So in Scion, one of the things that I love is, aside from everything that the players do, is the whole mechanically the principle behind the momentum. That you have a pool of dice that you can use. Whenever the players fail, the pool fills up. Whenever the players want to, draw from it, they can. It's a good way of using, fail forward mechanics without having to rely on improv all the time and trying to adapt situations and everything on the fly. I mean, if I don't know what I want to say or what is going to happen, just, hey, +1 die. That's it. And okay, now I'll talk about Sentinels. I think I want to talk about Sentinels way too much, and I can't make up my mind. So there's a trading card game coming up for our Sentinels of the Multiverse stream. Basically, what's gonna happen? So Sentinels of the Multiverse is this RPG where you play superheroes. So you've probably seen the teaser on Twitter. Um, it's my Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's the Simon Cinematic Universe, basically. And um, Simon Cinematic Universe, and as much or much like what Marvel did with the MCU, they've expanded upon their movies with TV series, with comic books, with uh, video games, or mind you, the video games are not really like furthering the canon of the story, like the Avengers game. Um, but you had like Agent Carter that sort of covered the gap between when Steve was frozen to I don't think it's modern day, but like until um until Stark gets old enough that they need to find another actor to play Howard Stark. And what I have in mind, so in Sentinels, you play. It's a comic book. You create a comic book. Every session is an issue. Every one or two sessions an issue. You collect the issues together. You tie them up with a nice title, like a name for that collection, and there's like specific mechanical advantages to that, things that can happen, sort of like experience points in other games, right? Um, and players can use that to like retcon their characters, make changes, big or small, to their characters. But one of the things that I really wanted to do is if I'm doing a cinematic universe, I want things to tie in. And you've already begun that with the Inception series for Bayani, your character. But we're gonna have more stuff too. We're gonna have solo streams from time to time if they're unlocked, and we might have more stuff coming up aside from just flash fix and hopefully art, if the budget permits it. Um, and then the TCG is basically I want to. So one of the things that I want to do in the future is to remunerate my cast. I want to be able to pay the people that can play on the channel, and we can talk about a lot of that. Things about the channel. I might tease a few things because I've had to fast forward my timeline for the year. But that said, so in order to do that, I'm basically using something called Streamloots, and we're gonna play with Streamloots. Streamloots offers like these cards that you can play with, like instead of donating bits, you buy booster packs. And what I'm doing is with these cards, um, you can alter the game, of course, but there are also cards that if chat plays them and the players respond, then it gives something to chat to like the next cards they're gonna play or anything. So it's this sort of building upon each other, and of course all the money that is you know given to these towards the donations for the cards and everything, that's all going back to the cast. I'm basically splitting it equal 4 ways for just my players. And Mark, I've seen your question, by the way. I'm going to get to it later. Just wanted to finish that little tangent on the TCG. And with those cards, basically, you can unlock new things about the campaign and have a look at some of the things that, like events that happened, events that might happen, crossovers. Um, you can work with me to create NPCs, whether they're like just regular people, like contacts we call them, or other heroes. or for now not villains, but that's gonna come up later, uh, in probably the first expansion for the card game. And the card game has like each card has beautiful art and animations that are displayed when you play them. And there's also like a leveling system with it that you can, the more cards you play, the more things you unlock, and with that you can like personalize your animations and everything when you play something, like the alert that pops up instead of the regular like Streamlabs alerts that we see all the time. Which, by the way, I've had disabled this whole time. Let me just add it. Thank you. So yeah, so that's one mechanic that I cannot wait to see in action, because in many cases chat will be able to make things more interesting, like offer choices to the players, never hinder them directly. The players will do that on their own. Don't worry about it. And one other thing that I wanted to do with the trading cards is you will be able to purchase them using channel points. So for people who don't have money, and they still want to help out and feel like they're doing something, because I don't want to put anything like behind a paywall. So just by watching the stream, you'll be able to gather up enough channel points to get like a free booster pack and stuff like that, and then use that to play the TCG along with everybody else, basically. And there's no pay to win in it. Don't worry. But there are some cards that you can only get in a pack, others that you can craft, like in Hearthstone. And I think Magic Arena does it. I don't remember. Yeah, Magic Arena does the card crafting, but I think they give you, if I remember correctly, it's like a wild card, and then you can use it to turn it into the actual card that you're looking for. But yeah, that's a mechanic that I cannot wait. Story-wise, well, I don't know yet. We'll see. We'll see what will happen. But that's definitely something that I've been tinkering with for a while, and that I need to know if it's feasible or not, like if it's going to work. If people are going to enjoy doing that, because most of the streams that I've had so far in the past like 2 years, I think most of my streams have been like rather passive. Like, chat, you're there, it's awesome, we see you, we read your comments, your puns, and all of that, but like I like when the audience can also participate. I like it when I don't know, I feel like it's like if I were to invite everyone in my home, mind you, just with the amount of viewers we have right now, we could not fit in my home, in my house, but like if I were to invite you to one of my games, even if it's just to watch, I want to involve you, unless you really don't want to. But yeah, so that's the one I'm the most looking forward to, or the one that I'm looking forward to the most is the TCG. And then,
I mean, I personally like it when. Yeah, sorry. I personally like it when the audience is especially chatty in in a stream, especially since when I see people throwing out ideas, I will always try to find a way to improvise or improv those ideas or things into my whatever it is that I'm doing. I like to reference things from outside the game also very frequently. Not as much as Deadpool does with fourth wall breaking, but it's always good to do that. I mean, I've watched a lot of charity TTRPG streams, and a lot of it is donation driven, but most of the time it's to um, it, it's to just hinder people, players in the
Yeah.
game, um, and it gets a little much. I remember this one time. It was a campaign of level 4 um, characters that Speedy actually um, was DMing, and uh, when you donated, uh, you could add a random monster to just show up and attack the party. And we ended up going up against an undead beholder at level 4. Um, and
Yeah, no.
it's sort of it doesn't get fun that way. Um, I like the whole idea of collaborative storytelling, and so when someone throws out an idea, um, like Renegade, for instance, who does that a lot, I will pull that in. Maybe
Hmm.
not in that particular stream, but I'll make a note of it and put it down there. And I mean, it was for a good cause, but
If it's a
seeing your
one shot,
character
I
die,
don't mind.
yeah, it was fine. My character died in it. That was the only time I've ever seen my character die on a actual play stream. But
Really?
yeah, so been more cautious since. But yeah, but
Yeah, no, I'll do it. I'll do it for charity. I mean, the Witcher charity games that I've done were just bonkers with the amount of stuff that we added in that basically, made the game very, very entertaining. Um, but like it would be hell to try to GM that for more than a session. And I found out too by being and watching other campaigns with chat participation that sometimes it becomes a like contest of popularity, and I think that's unfair. That's unfair to some players because let's take the example of I have one player that has like I don't know, a Twitter following of 20,000 people. A lot of their friends or a lot of the people that follow them will want to encourage them and them alone. But if I'm bringing in a new person that is, relatively new to streaming, which, I'm doing with, well, there's one person in each of my stream, actually. I always try to get someone, get someone in. And they'll feel left out because people you know, aren't gifting them with anything. And that sucks. So I'd rather it happens to everyone, or it happens randomly. You let the dice decide. And the other thing is hindering players for a long-term campaign. That is a big no for me. Um, Killing characters for charity, like what Mark Song said in chat. Yes, that is fun. Meat grinders are amazingly fun. You can um, the goal is to see like how long you're going to last, and that is it. And chat will just throw everything at you to try to kill you. That's awesome. Um, I mean, another audience participation that I had that I liked before was in Dark Matter, where chat played the weird AI that was on the ship. And so the AI was just as chaotic as chat was. And that worked fine. We had some very good moments of shenanigans, hilarity that happened because of that. But like none of it was to directly put like an obstacle in front of the players, or um, or to reward one person more than the rest. I mean, we filled out the ship with marshmallow at some point because that was the thing that was rolled. Um, and there were a bunch of other times where when stuff happened, but it's been a while. Um, Yeah. So I want chat participation, I want chat engagement, but I don't want it to be to the detriment of the game or to the detriment of my players' fun. Because at the end of the day, that's like if it's not fun, we're not gonna play. So I I want both, and I'm hoping that this is actually going to be fun enough that that I'm gonna have to work and create more than 30 cards. And I already had a lot of problem coming up with all of those cards, but we'll see. Yeah, chat giving healing potions and everything. Um, for the AI Mark songs, by the way, I had like a random table of like 300 things that could happen, and we would roll on that table. Um, as for healing potions and everything, it helps a lot in certain games, but that's the thing. It works in certain games. You play D&D, healing potions, they work fine. Inspiration, that works. Advantage, disadvantage, like everything, because D&D is super gamified. Um, but then if I want to play a gritty, realistic, modern game, like a film noir detective game, there's not a lot of like consumables that you could give to the players. Um, it's harder to have the same type of engagement. Um, and if you do something like creating an NPC, if it happens too often, it's just not fun anymore. It's just basically you're paying money so that the GM shouts out like the name of the NPC you've created. Because if there are like 50 new NPCs, it's going to take a while to meet them all, and you want them to be impactful. You want them to be somewhat important, um, and that's what I love about the thing with Sentinels of the Multiverse is the contacts are basically these non-superhero people whom the party will rely on for favors, for information, for anything. Um, I haven't added it yet because that's also an idea for the along with the villains, but it's to have chat create sidekicks, elevate a contact to a sidekick. We already have elevate a lieutenant to a full-blown villain, so actually have like a character sheet made for maybe just a I'm not gonna say a minor villain, because you have in Sentinels you have minions, lieutenants, and villains, and so minions are basically just the one-hit kill. The mass of faceless whatever that the heroes are gonna fight. The lieutenants are basically if we were talking like MCU movies, the lieutenants are basically the four aliens that work for Thanos. I don't remember their names. I think they're more important in the comics, but like in the movie, they each have at least one scene, even though you might not know their name. And that's what a lieutenant is. But then if someone in chat likes the lieutenant and has the card for it, they can just level them up. And from now on, they become a recurring villain with an actual, stat sheet and everything, and that might alter the game. Because why would the lieutenant, leave their boss or whatever like that? It'll create interesting branches in the story, and it's gonna be a lot of fun, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Um, I probably, in terms of my nerd knowledge, comic books is probably the most expansive one I had. But one of the things that I like to see in comic books that you don't see a lot is just the way the characters develop over a longer period of time. The one that I will use as an example would be Dick Grayson, for instance. How he's changed as a person, going from Robin to Nightwing, and then to eventually becoming Batman for a while, and then all that stuff, and how his perspective changes with the world and things like that. To a lesser extent, that's what's happened to Spider-Man. When Spider-Man first started out, he was he was a genuine teenage superhero in a time where you had Superman and Batman as adults, and he was the only teen hero at that time. But nowadays, he's sort of grown with his audience, and he's actually become pretty much an Iron Man of sorts, succeeding Tony Stark in the Marvel universe. So, not to leave out a or not to give away too much about the upcoming Sentinels of the Multiverse campaign, but that's something that I want to really explore with Bayani because, as I hinted in the Flash fiction, this is kind of like the third act for him in his career. Moving from a young up and coming superhero to one who had led a fairly established team to now where he's sort of in the you could argue the twilight of his years, and having to deal with learning how to communicate with folks of a much younger generation than him. So
yeah, and there's also, so in the backstory of our Sentinels game, like 95%, if not more, of superheroes across the universe have disappeared. One day they were there, the next they weren't. And there doesn't seem to be any pattern as to who and why. And it also, I see superheroes, it also encompasses supervillains. There's a bunch of them that just disappeared. And don't worry, it's not a Thanos thing. I'm not copying. There's an actual reason that I refuse to tell my players. It has something to do with the multiverse, so we know that, and we know that maybe some of them can come back. I like the idea of and that's one of the reasons why I'm certain that I will love Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I apologize for not having watched it yet. I told myself, oh, it's only 6 episodes. I'm going to wait until they're all there and I'm going to binge them in a day or something. But then I could not find said day to binge it. So I need to find some time. But I want to explore what would the world be like in those 5 years between the snap and the blip. The heroes that remain. Like, give me... at the start of Endgame, I think, who was it? Captain Marvel, Black Widow, Rocket Raccoon. Who else was it? I know Clint was Ronin at that moment.
Sure.
War Machine was there.
Right.
I don't know if I have another. Scott!
I mean, Thor was there technically, but
oh yeah, no, Thor was there. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was
and
Iron
Hulk
Man,
was there too.
Captain America. Yeah, the original Avengers. But it's to see what happens when you rely on superheroes and supervillains for the world to work. Like, you have an arc reactor, right, that can power an entire city. What happens if it breaks and Tony isn't there to fix it? Do the people that work on it, do they have the same knowledge? Probably not. So you're already starting to degrade the quality of what was left behind. That at some point you will need to rely on heroes again and everything. But that's sort of what the beginning of the campaign is going to be about. It's, you have all of these new superheroes in an age where people don't really like superheroes because they did a bunch of stuff and then they just disappeared. We were counting on them and now they're gone. So
Now, would some other people, other than superheroes, supervillains, or even people with just powers, have disappeared too? Because, um, I think that that is certainly possible.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yes,
and then
but
cool. Sure.
they're not as popular. They're not public figures like superheroes and supervillains. So, have some civilians disappeared? Yeah, but their disappearance was not as has advertised as what happened with other people. Like, of course, whatever,
Sure.
if you talk to their family or whatnot, like, you would know. But,
So, but playing and just talking out that idea of superheroes and supervillains being, just disappearing, it's sort of like there's this huge power vacuum that you talk about. Um, and so I think that's always a good trope or an idea to play around and see, what sorts of domino effects that you can think of off the top of your head that would happen. But, there's always something else that you need to sort of consider as well. Like how reliant was the world on heroes being, emergency, um, your first line of defense in an emergency. Um, how did those superheroes, how were they structured? Were they federal employees, or were they mercenaries who could be sponsored or um, you know funded, hired by private corporations, which I think would be kind of a cool or interesting idea, because that is certainly something that would lead to a lot of distrust for superheroes if you knew that um, you know uh, the super speeder over there is working directly for Jeff Bezos and Amazon,
mm-hmm. um,
things like that.
that's one thing. Like, corporations owning people and having a deciding or a major part of the stakes in the world. I mean, I already have Cyberpunk, um, but I'm gonna lean more in the first the first thing that you mentioned, government agencies and mercenaries. So um, they're less like sponsored, um, but at the same time, that, for example, I'll call them Overwatch, right? Like the Overwatch team in the game Overwatch. Whatever the name of their team was, I don't remember. It's in their case, they were probably government funded. I just don't know by which government. But that's the thing. If they go somewhere to help, you can rest assured that whatever country they work for is going to come back after and ask, or remind the country that they went in to help, well, now that you received our help, now we need to talk like business. So you have like this diplomacy and this game of cloak and dagger that the heroes probably don't have uh, any knowledge of. Maybe some of them just don't want to face it, or they just ignore it completely because it's not something that they're just called in case of an emergency, and the rest of the time they live their civilian lives. Um, what about anti-heroes? Ah. Um, so, anti-heroes, like as far as the disappearance goes, yeah, if you talk about like, was there a Punisher in our version of Earth? Let's say that there was. They might still have disappeared because of the shit. What did we call it? The event? You gave a name for it the
Um,
other day.
I did call it the event because I didn't want to label it as anything specific. Did I say it was called? I didn't think I used the blip.
No, not the
'Cause I
blip
thought
and
that
not the
was
snap.
something that, right?
No. My
Um,
original name was the Catastrophe, but it's too long.
that's a mouthful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Cataclysm.
I think I called it the shift.
Oh, that might have been it. The shift. Um, and as far as the other half of your question, Mark, yes, there are many of them now, and many of them that will do in the end will do good, but not necessarily the right way. The kind of the ends justify the means, right? So you're gonna have a lot of that because you have to protect. So imagine you have I don't know, a villain that has an organization like Hydra or whatever, and they're working in the shadows of many different places on Earth, and then, no, we're not calling it the Snip. And then they were kept in check because of the fear of hero involvement. But now that they're gone, they can just do whatever they want. So you're gonna have people that are gonna step up, and these people might not, say, "Oh, we should catch them and put them in jail or make them stand trial or whatever." It's gonna be, I'm gonna put a bullet between their eyes. Oh, you mean anti? Okay. Yeah, the other. I mean, there are. Do I have any examples right away in the NPCs I created? I don't think so. Even as far as like anti-hero in the ends justify the means thing, I know they exist. I think there's only one so far that's been created. Because I would rather, for the most part, have the players come up with villains and with because Sentinels is a game where you're creating a comic book together. So I would rather they bring up their nemesis and then we integrate them into the game, because that makes sense. Instead of me just like shoving a villain and hoping that villain becomes a nemesis. Like, it doesn't work that way. Or it could work, but like chances are it's not.
Yeah. But the thing is that my character Bayani has a lot of backstory from over 15 years development across playing him in superhero MMOs, and a lot of that involved a very rich history of villains who I think are going to come back and not just haunt Bayani, but also be very targeted and diametrically opposed to the other players in the group. So I've been told that I give DMs some very good knives to use in campaigns. So I know I like torturing Hannah about that idea. But one thing that I wanted to sort of explore trope-wise, and this sort of goes back to talking about personal history and maybe some past trauma and such. When you think about the superheroes in comic books, you think about where do they get their training, and how does that training affect how they end up operating. So what I'm pulling experience-wise is that I used to teach martial arts, and I've taught martial arts to everyday folks in classes, but I've also taught self-defense to military people. and police officers and prison guards and that sort of thing. And so I've sort of seen firsthand of how how those folks, like those, the guards, police, military, how they view their training, and how it affects the way that they see the world and see themselves is vastly different from the way that I had, my black belt students, for instance, the way that they carried themselves and the way that, they viewed the knowledge that I gave them. And so, what I'm hoping to do is to try to have Bayani teach or mentor his fellow fledgling heroes in a way that would be very different and show a very different relationship and practice than the heroes that would have been recruited by the government and part of a formal unit, that sort of thing.
You had told me, about the difference in mentality between, those people, the people that learn martial arts just so that they can beat up other people, versus those that also learn the spiritual side of it. And I feel like this is going to be something that I want to explore in Sentinels. Not necessarily spirituality, but like what it means to be a hero. It's one thing. It's one thing to defeat the villains, but if you leave just rubble behind, are you really a hero? If you're not elevating others, if you are not helping out in different ways than just punching bad guy in the face. It's cool to punch bad guys in the face. But like in the Marvel movies, I've only seen T'Challa actually doing something like good for people. I guess the others also have done stuff, but it's not really focused on, and that's something I think is missing. So they'll be trained by Bayani to be heroes, to be efficient, but I'm also hoping in the game, either through Bayani or through, events that are going to happen, that this notion will also be challenged.
I think so. Seriously, my hope is to get Hannah to shed tears on the street. I will consider my job well done if I get waterworks from the co-players. So.
I mean, I never set out to make my players cry, but it's always fun when it happens. If it's, done, consensually, and if it's done because of the intensity of the scene or the weight of all the baggage that the character accumulated over the campaign. But yeah. The unorthodox hero is what I was referring to. Oh, okay. Yeah. Because anti-hero is more often than not someone who will do heroic thing, but they do not embody heroic qualities. You have the anti-villain, who is the complete opposite. I think I know what you're referring to. I don't remember the word for it, Mark Songs. Yeah, the like the thrust upon hero. Well, it's basically what you would have in like the monomyth. is the person that begins their lives as someone completely normal, unaware of the gifts that they have or what have you, and then they develop it. And yes, in the campaign there are these type of people. In fact, think I think that's what Pooja is. She had a completely normal life, and then her powers erupted, almost literally. And yeah, and she's this like very new, like new to the hero business, if you will. And she doesn't want to use her powers because they're dangerous, but she might have to. And so yeah, there's a lot of people who will have tried to step up where needed. Some will be a little comical, because of like the concept that I chose around them. Because sometimes, not everyone has cool ideas for a moniker they give to themselves, uh, or they don't think they look cool in their suit, but it's not necessarily the case. But still, there are people that try. I mean, I love the Tick, and I think I don't want to copy the Tick. Um, but at the same time, like it's fun to have like that little Easter egg of I have a villain that has a gun that turns people into pigs, and he's called the Butcher. And no, he doesn't butcher pigs. He mind controls them. So he uses pigs as a distraction to like rob banks because he's that kind of villain. The players might encounter him at some point, but he's like more of a like one-shot villain, like a in between collections type of thing.
I think one of the cool things about that I enjoyed about
Hey, Rob.
playing City of Heroes and the community there was the fact that they had there were just as many serious heroes or comical heroes and villains as there were serious heroes. Actually, one of them today that I featured on my tweet was a guy that I remember pretty fondly. It was a villain called the Lounge Singer or the Lounge Crooner, and he didn't have a real costume. He wore a cheap leisure suit that was open. He had this like hairy chest, some gold medallion, and he was like basically some lounge lizard from a Las Vegas like lower tier
So like
casino
evil
act.
Frank Sinatra?
Sort of, but he wasn't even as charming as Frank Sinatra. He was just a little bit on the borderline pervy, creepy side. But what always made me laugh about it was that he, in role play, he would always somehow find a way to cover really cheesy 70s soft rock song and work that into his dialogue. The one that always made me laugh was when he broke out Air Supply. And that was just really great, really fun. But I hope that we can balance a lot of things. I think that I'm really excited to see everybody else's characters because they're all very different and bring something new to the table. And I've been having a lot of fun figuring out potential interactions that would happen between Bayani and them. So.
Yeah, and we're gonna have, so with the TCG as well, in the first like core box of cards, you have issue number 0 for every character. But then in the upcoming expansions after that, you're gonna have issue number 1, issue number 2, and they're gonna lead up to when the group, to our main issue number 1, when the group is already formed and out on a mission. We've talked about a bit, so the players at least know how how they met and everything. Like we've established that already. A strange turn of events, um, almost like a fateful encounter. Yeah, fateful encounter. Um, but I feel like we're gonna have maybe like 8 issues before we get to that point. Um, with the players um, meeting Bayani under his disguise, like his second persona, second identity, the first time, and just having this impression left uh, from him after their encounter, where they're like, okay, he's someone special, so I'm gonna hold on to his business card because I feel like I don't know why they feel that person feels important. Hello, Furious George. And yeah, and then later on, well, when shit hits the fan, someone gives Bayani a call, and that's how everyone got together.
Yeah,
I
it's
want to
been
keep
really
it
cool
vague
trying
because I
to
don't want
work
to
out
spoil it.
those.
Um,
I mean, the other players already know. We've been discussing behind the scenes about, how those how those events went down and such. But
mhm.
that's sort of what I called Inception, just because it's, you know, basically passing events that could lead to something, but might not, things like that. And so, sort of just planting the seed or planting an idea. You know,
We
wouldn't say
call that
hoping for the
planting
best.
knives.
Yeah, planting knives.
It's you reminded me when you said the that lounge singer who would insert 70s rock songs into everything. Um, that's sort of part of my day job. There are so many Easter eggs that I'm putting in Vampire that sometimes you're gonna have to dig deep to find. But other times you kind of go, yeah, okay, I see what you did there. Um, but don't ask me to be as witty as Godless Lawyer. That's not gonna happen.
Oh, so many puns.
I would like to have
I didn't
Godless
show it.
Lawyer play a villain, a pun-based villain, or a pun-based hero. Like that would be amazing.
That would drive Bayani nuts. But that also reminds me of another player that I ran into. Her name was Kim Paler.
Okay.
Kimpaleer, and she put a lot of stuff. She put a lot of people on sticks, sharp sticks. So
the name kind of gives it away. Was she a vampire?
Yeah. No, it was not a vampire. Okay. Pun-based villain like Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
We were actually talking about goofball characters, and I told Simon about my favorite character on the Tick TV show was a guy named Sarcastro, and he was a wannabe hero, but he was dressed up like the Cuban dictator, Fidel Castro, in that typical green army jumpsuit with the the green cap and army boots, and he just used his biting wit to defeat villains. But I always laughed at that. Why would you do this? Why would you come up with this? But,
yeah, no, I mean, Tick had some I loved Chairface for no other reason than he has a chair for a head, and he tried to write his name on the moon, failed halfway through. And like from that point on in the cartoon, like every time you see the moon, you have like
Yeah,
Shaw
you just.
written on it.
I think that's great. I love callbacks like that, though. And, we'll, we'll be able to build some cool callbacks like that.
Oh
I
yeah.
think they're yeah. I think that's the thing that I loved about all the people that I play with in Simon's campaigns is that we always manage to find a way to do callbacks to even earlier episodes. So
Yeah, that also helps me remember stuff that I sometimes forget. Because I have all my notes. So all my stuff is kept on a wiki-like app called Legend Keeper, and it's basically like a communal database of everything. So I let my players, because you can have like maps and put pins in here and there and add articles or edit them. And so I let my players do a lot in it. Like they have their own space that they can write. They have their own journal and everything if they want to take notes. But also that's where like I have a hidden section with like 1 page per game session. But it's just for games like Cyberpunk, where we're in our like 40 something shit. We're season 4, episode 9 is the next one.
I think so.
There's 10 to 12 per, and we had the first solo episodes. So yeah, we're like 45th, 40 in that range, like 40 to 50 a session. Sometimes there's stuff that I wrote in session 3 that I don't remember. So having the players call back to it, then I'm like, oh, yes, that's true. And I'm just gonna refresh my notes so that they're like closer if I want to search through. What do you think is needed to keep D&D fresh for you? Ha! Good question. I actually have reached a point. I've had my fill of D&D for a while. I love D&D. I've GM'd, I mean, currently I'm running 2 games of Rime of the Frost Maiden. And I also had a private game, too, that I was running in Wildemount. And at some point, like, you've gone around, you've done a lot. I'm gonna take a break from D&D for a while. Like, I mean, I am getting Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft because, 1, Ravenloft, I've always loved the setting. And I'm actually not a big fan of Barovia, but I'm a big fan of Demolieu, which I'm hoping is in the new campaign setting. That and Darkon, I think, where Azalin is. So in order to keep it fresh, what I need to do is to cycle through other games. I agree with the statement that yes, you can do everything with D&D, but other games will do it better. You can play a horror game with D&D. Hell, I have a horror game redacted under NDA. But it's different if you use a system that is made for horror. So to keep it fresh, I just cycle through other games. So we're gonna have Sentinels.
I mean, sorry. I mean, I guess my question is, do you have to keep D&D fresh? I mean, do you have to always keep that in the rotation of games that you play? Because, speaking as someone who is, in the circles for people of color in the TTRPG communities, there are people out there who actively seek to avoid playing D&D because of the various things trapped in them. So I guess the question is what is it about D&D that you enjoy that you want to continue experiencing, um, and then just moving on from there.
And I've done that work already. It's not that D&D has to be in my rotation, is that knowing me, at some point I'll get the craving. And I cannot, it's not one thing that D&D does that brings me back to it. It's everything. I don't know why. It's the comfort food of RPGs. It's the McDonald's of RPGs. There are other places you could eat at, but you'll always go back to McDonald's at some point. You'll get a craving for, like, I don't know, milkshake and fries, or ice cream and fries. Does it have issues? Yes, definitely. And every time that I play, every campaign that I make, I have work to do because the designers didn't. So there's a lot of, like, deconstruction that goes with it, and I think that also contributes to me having my fill for now, because it's like, okay, I've done a lot of work to make this game less colonialist and less racist. I don't want to start in another campaign where I need to do that work again and again and again and again. So I think it contributes to that. But I know myself. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I feel personally obligated to play D&D because of all these dice that people keep giving me that are just sitting there on my desk collecting dust or in a bag somewhere. But no, I mean, I get it. I feel I've always had fun with D&D when I'm playing with people that I know. Like I played D&D with Simon at PAX East last year. That was the only time that I've ever played D&D in person in like 20 years. But D&D is one of those things where I have stuff ready. So if someone drops in that I know and that I want to play with says, I've got a D&D campaign, you in? And I can have a character ready in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Tailored to their campaign, things like that. But I get that it's popular and it's familiar to a lot of people. But like I said, for me, it's sort of what do I want to get out of a particular story, or what do I want to explore?
Yeah.
And for me personally, I just don't have as big a connection to fantasy as a lot of other folks do, because for someone like me, you never saw Asian people in fantasies unless it was like that stupid character thing that was up there in D&D second edition. But you look at a Lord of the Rings movies, for instance, you don't see Asian people or black people cast there. And so I always the way that people usually default to portraying fantasy feels very exclusionary in that sense. So
it's very white European centric.
Yeah, and so I've never really felt the need to, or the desire to really get involved in it, because I've been sort of unwelcome or an oddity within that niche community. And I tell you, it's bad enough being weird or into nerdy stuff in the general community as a whole, but when you're weird within your niche weird community, it's like,
yeah. I mean, it's like, for the longest time, less now, I'm not saying that it's perfect now, but for the longest time, if you were a black person playing D&D, you were the Lando Calrissian of that campaign setting. And I say black person, but it could have been the same for an Asian. It's just I don't have a reference of a big franchise with the scope of, oh, there's a galaxy of white people. but it's the same thing. And yeah, I mean, let's not talk about Oriental Adventure. Um, it's like there's a lot of work that needs to go into fixing it whenever you play a game. And there's stuff that I just have like as second nature. Like I never have whole entire races being good or evil or whatever. Like that doesn't. One, the first thing that I do is I throw alignment out the window. I never played with alignments except like in my very first campaign back in second ed, and then after that, it's just it's too restrictive, and it makes things completely black and white, and that's not how things should be. In fact, if you just look at the original Forgotten Realms that Ed Greenwood wrote, it was a lot less clear-cut than what we have even in the like first, second edition books that came out by TSR for the Forgotten Realms. They're different than what Ed has in his own campaign. There's a lot of things that were changed and adapted and made like PG-13. How would I approach a setting in a fantasy version of Asia? I would play a game like Sina Una. Is that how you pronounce it? I would play a game actually written by Asians, because they know what they're talking about. It does not make sense to me that like you can write other cultures in what you write, but you cannot write something about another culture without having people from said culture have like an active hand in what they're doing, in what the game is going to be. It's one of the reasons why I bought Coyote and Crow. I'm not a Native American. I for the longest part, because of where I live and everything, there was like a very, very specific image of Native Americans. And it took me, after my teenage years to start realizing that, okay, wait a second, like, there's something rotten about people. And it took me to, I had a chauffeur for a couple of months because I had been in an accident in here because of socialized healthcare, because I couldn't ride on the bus or anything. The government paid me an Uber every day to go wherever I needed. And my driver was a Native American man. And so we just got to talk, and like there's a lot of things that I love about the culture. Would I write a game about Native Americans? No. But like Coyote and Crow is written by an entire team of just Native Americans. So you know that what's in it is going to be like what they want to see and what it should be. Same thing for an Asian theme. And also, I would not play an Asian theme game if Asian is every country in Asia put together. Because that's not how it is.
I mean, there's a lot of source books out there that are, available or in development where, you have worlds and cultures built from the ground up by people of color. Like I'll point to Omen's Rising, for instance, which you see advertised on this channel.
Tomorrow at 9 we have the second episode.
True. Definitely check that out. But Chris is Gary, who you see on Cyberpunk Red here, is spearheading this project. But there are like some 12 different cultures that are currently being written and developed and built, and every single writer and creator involved in this project is a person of color. So that's the only real way to get to play in a world or a setting that is as rich as it needs to be from a cultural standpoint. So, like last year, for instance, I was in a campaign over on the Utopia channel that was created by Miriam, which was a fantasy culture that was based in a fictional world that was based on the India, like colonial India, such. So, and that was very rich. But Miriam did the work, and she herself is the culture, and that's just something that you'll never really get if you're sourcing it out to a staff of professional writers who have no firsthand experience with the culture.
Yeah. And that's why, when I see a game, or I'm, someone talks to me about a game, let's say medieval fantasy set in China, like Chinese medieval fantasy, like give me Romance of the Three Kingdoms with magic. I'm sure there's one out there. I just haven't heard about it. But if I find one, and it's not, written from the point of view of someone who just got 2 books at the local library and decided that they knew everything about Chinese history because of that, or God forbid, someone who played Dynasty Warriors and then said, okay, this is what history was like. And then Lu Bu showed up and massacred 500 people by himself, and stuff like that. It's, and yeah, Furious George, you're right, Cyberpunk was written by a black man, Mike Pondsmith, which a lot of people don't know is black. But yeah. And does that mean that the video game doesn't have issues? Oh god, yes it does. But he didn't have as much a hand in it as he had for his RPG, which is why Cyberpunk Red, for example, is a lot more welcoming and diverse in who they present and how they present people of different cultures. Instead of Cyberpunk, the CB 2077, where it's very, again, very clear cut, very black and white. But yeah, so that's the thing about D&D. Like I've had my share of Lord of the Rings. I'm gonna move on to something else. Oh, and that is something that I saw today talking, because we're theoretically here in the East Coast of America, we still have about 2 hours to turn into goblins and shit. But one of the reasons why I don't really talk about it, and like, haha, it's funny, but it's also, if you look into that game Shadowrun and what the goblinization was, it is horribly racist.
It's pretty much a dog whistle.
Yeah. Oh, you turn into an orc because deep inside you were violent and angry. Yeah, but why is it that like 90% of black people turned into orcs? The fuck? And of course, elves and dwarves are all, mostly elves, they're all white because they're all like Irish and whatever. Yeah, no, it's
true, and they all had much better experience in being born, as opposed to just being dramatically turned into transformed one day.
Yeah.
So,
and no, it's when I see people say, "Well, Shadowrun is better than Cyberpunk," no. And I will argue that
I'm having way more fun. I'm having way more fun in Cyberpunk Red than I ever did playing Shadowrun. So
yeah, it's the only reason I knew Shadowrun is because that was the only Cyberpunk game that was sold at the only hobby store that we had back in the day here. So I never saw any of the Cyberpunk books. Because otherwise I would have been playing Cyberpunk 2020 since the beginning. And that's another thing, like, a lot of people are decrying how humanity is treated in Cyberpunk, but they forget that what they talk about is what was before the new edition, before Cyberpunk Red. I love how they treat psychosis and humanity loss, and how they actually present humanity in Cyberpunk Red. And how it's not a question of becoming more machine than person. It's not a question of saying that if you replace body parts, you're automatically less than human. That is all not true. It's not that it's completely different, but it's all based on like the subtle shifts in your personality. If you start realizing, and it's only if you start thinking that, well, people are just the sum of their parts and we're all made of replaceable parts. So, you know, if I tear your arm out, you can just go to the hospital and get a new one. So why shouldn't I? And that's the slippery slope that begins. But like, there's a lot of things like gender affirmation surgery that does not have any humanity loss. If you had an accident and needed a limb replaced, or even like a cyber heart, because your heart gave out, like, you don't have humanity loss from that. It doesn't make you less of a person. What makes you less of a person is if you decide to insert a grenade launcher in your arm because you want to blow people up. That's a problem. Yeah, Leaded Coffee. Shadowrun is very much, it was made as the like D&D in the future. That's what it is. Whereas Cyberpunk is a lot more about surviving. Red especially, just surviving day to day. Yeah. What? Oh, I think I'll let you go first, and on that question from Mark, if you want, and then I can.
What would you change about D&D to make it more inclusive of a system? I think getting rid of races as part of character creation is a big thing. Like the whole idea of racial feats or racial bonuses, things like that. I feel like tying that to a specific set of appearances or a certain character's appearance is kind of lame at this point. Humans can have the same kinds of benefits that maybe an elf or a dwarf might enjoy, and it's more of a product of their upbringing versus a product of biology.
Yeah,
that's probably a good place to start. I think when you start with that, then you end up naturally thinking about more about cultures as opposed to just and the way that people just organize themselves in a fashion, and that just becomes part of the world building in general.
Yeah, get rid of the races is the first thing I would do, and not just get rid of them in the sense that, oh, we're going to use ancestry instead. It's the same thing. You just put a coat of paint on it. That's not the way to do it. The only reason why I would say like racial features is if biologically they were completely different. Like, I mean, dark vision. That is something that if you're of a completely different species, you could have, that others wouldn't. But like Anino said, you can have them as like racial feats if you prefer. Because I bet you that a human who lived underground, you know, in a like, let's call it traditional dwarven culture, um, their night vision would be a lot better than anybody else, like any other human. Could they have dark vision? Probably. After years of working in the dark, like, yeah, their eyes will have adjusted. And it's surprising how easy the body, I was gonna say human body, but like, because we haven't met any other aliens for now. But it's amazing how the body is like adaptable. There's a lot of animals that have very adaptable bodies too, and a lot of animals that don't. But yeah, and you get rid of that. You get rid of races completely. You create, like you said, cultures. And if you're just talking like worrying about mechanical bonuses or whatever because of like, you know, where is my +2 to dex? So you just put that in the class. A rogue will always be more dexterous than a mage, who will always be probably, I'm not going to say more intelligent. That is something that should change as well. It's easy to say intelligence, but I would argue that I would change it to memory instead. Because everything needs to be, like magic needs to be learned by heart. If you still keep the events in magic. Because it's a question in events in magic of forgetting a spell. When you cast it, you magically forget about it. So how do you retain that information? It's just having a good memory. So I think, like, I see wizards like doctors. They've amassed a lot of information, but they'll never be as strong as a fighter. Go that way. Do it like that. That's the first thing. Then you get rid of all the cultures that are very, very racist. I mean, if you get rid of the races and you're like, well, yes, but like Forgotten Realm, all the drows are bad except for one dude. I'll argue it's not just one dude, but also, yeah, no. Maybe Menzoberranzan is ruled by these like psychotic priestesses. Zealots, really. But the town next door might not. They wouldn't need that. And the Silence of the Spider Queen series of novel actually proves it. If it wasn't for their religion, drow would not be the way they are. But then again, it paints them as they're all the same anyway. So, yeah, it's and it's also very weird that the only matriarchal society is evil. Like, I don't know what Bob thought when he made it. Maybe he didn't mean it that way, but that's how it presents itself now. Yes, Chaosium with RuneQuest is pretty much skill-based. GURPS is like that too, but GURPS you have so much work to do as a GM that I opened the books once, I ran a campaign for like 2 sessions, and then I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to design my own game with blackjack and hookers instead of having to design multiple games all the time. So yeah.
Trooper likes GURPS a lot. So, you know, if you want to get into a GURPS campaign, that's probably someone who you talk to first.
Yes, but I would have Trooper GM the campaign. And I would just say, present me the rules that I have to play with, and that's fine. Um, but making the rules for a GURPS game is just so much. It's like the OVA, the anime game that we ran here, Sisterhood of the Magical Blade. It's fun, but you have to restrict a lot of things because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Because the every ability is like super generic, and then you have to sort of tweak them and then look into what they can do and then add these modifiers and change these things and everything. And at the end, what you have is like almost a fully fleshed out, in our case, was a sort of fleshed out magical girl anime that we had. Um, what is my take on fighting monsters as a game mechanic to level up? Haven't given XP for defeating monsters since fuck. I think unless I decided like because of whatever reason for a game, like we were running like an Adventurers League game. I think even my first campaign, I was already using milestones. Um,
I think every game that I've played or campaign that involved any sort of level up mechanic was all milestone based.
because killing for XP doesn't, it incentivizes killing, and it shouldn't. And I've always been one for, and even back when, and I think I might ask my home group that question um, uh, this weekend. I think even with them, I told them um, that we won't get XP for killing monsters, but we'll get XP for like completing challenges and succeeding at stuff. Like I'm talking like back in third edition, where the concept of milestone wasn't necessarily written in the books. Um, because I gave XP per quest and not necessarily per monster kill. But then again, it's been a long while. Like I mean, I might have. I'm not saying I've never done it, and I'm perfect. I am perfect, but not because I've never done it. Um, for a lot of other reason. I am the template. Everyone has a little bit of me in them. Please don't quote that.
So, someone's going to clip that now.
Yeah, I know. It lives on the internet. I might have done it on purpose. But yeah, it's and I'd argue one of the best system for XP that I've seen. Cyberpunk has an interesting one, which is per role. Like, are you a social player? Yeah? Okay, cool. What did you do socially in the game that contributed to the game? Oh, you're like the tactician, the one who loves combat and everything. Okay, cool. It's not about the people it killed. It's about how well your strategies were executed. And such. I think. Wow. I can't come up with like RPGs that have XP adjacent system that I like. Yeah, Cyberpunk has a social XP system. It's basically a table, and you have like the socializer, you have the hi BK. Um, Let me open the PDF. It'll be so much easier if I open the PDF instead of going for 5 minutes. Cyberpunk. XP. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, no, Prax, I disabled many of the commands because of Omen's Rising. I didn't want to spam their chat with a bunch of stuff, and I forgot to turn them on for tonight. Um, where is it? That's the appendix. Ah, there you go. Improvement points. Good. So you have, it's 4. So there's the warrior, the socializer, the explorer, and the role player. And that's your type of player. Not type of character, type of player that you are. And then you also have a 5th branch that is just the group. So did the group achieve their goal? Yes, no. If no, did they progress towards their goal? That's the most important. And then, yeah, for the warrior, you have, like, you use your combat skills effectively. And you often took out important opponents, for example. The socializer is the one that, you maintain party and player cohesion and unity. And, like, did everybody had fun? Everybody had fun? Cool, the socializer gets XP. Like, that's sort of what it is. But yeah. And then the role player is basically like, huh?
Oh no, I was going to say that as a player, I've always looked for ways to resolve a situation or a scene without resorting to combat. Like, I feel like that's the personal challenge for me, at any rate. It's also is exceptionally challenging when you have trigger happy people on your team who shoot first and ask questions never.
Yeah. But that's also sort of a character development thing, or a party cohesion development thing, where you have to have like this balance at some point, and it should happen. I was going to say something that is relevant to XP and everything, because we talk a lot about Cyberpunk, and how, the XP is good, the stuff is well, and blah blah blah. It's not because it's Cyberpunk, but it's because it is like one of the most recent RPGs. And I believe that the next game, even if it's not a game that we've heard of, but someone looked at Cyberpunk, looked at what was available on the market, and built up from there. Like, every new RPG will always be, hopefully, should always be, better than its predecessor, because you build upon what's already there. Does that mean I have something against the OSR? Maybe a little. But yeah. Yes, Call of Cthulhu is, well, all of the Chaosium games are like that, I believe. It's, did you use the skill? Yes, you check it, and then later on you're gonna make a check to see if you increase it or not. And it works great because the GM doesn't have to keep tab of anything. The players do it for you. Which, less work on the GM means that the GM can do more stuff. Plus, I mean, it's not like in Call of Cthulhu you had like 500 things to keep track of. That's another thing. Call of Cthulhu, I don't use insanity. Not just because of the inherent, ableism in using what they present insanity as, but also because I discovered over years and years of GMing Call of Cthulhu is I have a lot more fun in scaring out the players than having like, oh yeah, you see a deep one, you lose a d6 sanity. No, it's if the player is freaking out and they're scared for their characters, it will naturally show in how they're going to play their character. Even if they're not great role players, they'll just, naturally become more cautious because they're afraid. And it works. And then you let the player at that point decide if the shock of seeing something should cause XYZ. Of course, I keep a few things like, you see Cthulhu, you still have like sanity checks to make, but it's like 5 times your will, so it's always the same. But you see Cthulhu, you should freeze in terror. Whoever you are, there should be a little pee in your pants. Like, no questions asked. But that's like another thing that I remove from games, because it just doesn't vibe with me. Yep. Oh no, chat, say something. We need something else to talk about. Otherwise,
I guess my question is, do you see do you see a lot more? I've been noticing this trend of more anime-themed TTRPG materials and games coming out. Most recently, the one that we demoed on this channel, which was Animon, but which was super fun to play, by the way. You should all totally go out and play a round or two with your friends at least. But yeah, I've been noticing that there has been a lot more of that lately. Just wondering if you've noticed that trend too, if you've seen other anime themed TTRPGs out there, things like that.
I have seen
like
one.
It's sort of just, yeah.
But my tea is too cold to talk about it. Because I have tea to spill about that one. I have opinions.
Interesting.
The Big Eye Small Mouth remake is just a big no all over it for me. Not just because of how the lead designer treated their freelancers, where some freelancers still haven't been paid for stuff that they worked on a different edition of the game years ago. And anyway, bunch of issues with that, but also I played BESM D20 back in 3rd edition. It doesn't work. It doesn't. So the new one to me is not gonna. No, it's a point buy D&D system. Congratulations, you took everything and you made it point buy. It's math work, sure. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's no. And yeah, the fact that I've read, stories upon stories of freelancers not having been paid, and just the history of the company before. I'm like, and that's why we switched from, because I didn't know that originally when we did Sisterhood, but that's why we switched to OVA, which is another anime. Anime style a game. As far as like seeing a resurgence of them, yeah, there's like a lot, but not just like anime specific. Like they just have anime as art in it. Like they have a style. I think there's certainly a certain degree of inspiration, and I think that's due to what these designers watched growing up. That's their inspiration.
I think that's fair.
Like you watched a lot of anime, you like the style, you like the type of stories that you have in anime. Of course, when you get down to write the game that you like, it's going to be inspired by that. And that's cool. And maybe later on we'll see something else. You know, maybe in 20 years we'll finally get a Dora the Explorer inspired RPG.
A K-pop boy band RPG.
Yeah, that's called
I
Final
kind of
Fantasy
want to
15.
feel like so.
Looking over my shoulder to make
You
sure
just look for
I don't
cat
get
to hit
hit. Hi, we're talking about a K-pop inspired RPG. That it'll eventually happen. And then I said, but if you want to play a K-pop RPG, you should just play Final Fantasy 15. Because it's a boy band. She's laughing, but she's angry. I can see it in her eyes. Don't hit me.
Like one. All right, BK had a question. How do you determine what you remove from games you DM?
Either A, the stuff I don't like, B, the stuff my players don't like. And then we come up with a solution. You know, like Anino, you said earlier, you'd rather have racial feats and class features and cultures. Well, okay, let's do it that way. Like, let's not kid ourselves. No RPG is balanced the way people keep talking about game balance. Why? Because it's not a competitive game. It is not a it is in a way, especially in the sort of a board game. But you don't need like hard and fast rules to just have fun. In fact, even in Warhammer, when you play the war game in the rule books, unless they've removed it since 8th edition, well, I should say since like Age of Sigmar, one of the rule is if it doesn't work between you and your opponent, like you can't agree on something that's written, just decide between the two of you what it is, and that's it. You just play for fun. Like, of course, when you have like tournaments and everything, that's slightly different, but that's, you know, when you get into the realm of competitive playing and why you need hard and fast rules. But otherwise, yeah, it's just asking the players, like in the Lines and Veils, what do you want to see? What do you not want to see? There's something that bugs you about the game, we're gonna remove it. I have a game coming up, a stream, a campaign, a 10-week long campaign for now of Malifaux. So we're gonna play like horror Weird West. We're gonna have our session 0 offline next week, which I can't wait. And in it, there is Orientalism. Because they were like, we like the style. Yes, but it's not going to be that way. Because I don't like it. I don't intend to show it that way. It's Western inspired, so of course, like the entire Asian population in the game looks like the stereotypes you would see in like Westerns. So, and of course they're all like part of the insert Yakuza equivalent there, even though they're not Japanese, but whatever. They're not as bad as what others did, but then again, like that's something that I'm going to wave away. But that's mostly, you know, lore and look. So that's going to affect how I GM the game. Shut up, Google. I'm not going to have to change anything mechanically, but still. That's how I remove things from games I DM. Do you DM games, Anino?
I do not. but I've been starting to think about if I wanted to give Simon a break on his channel and DM a one shot or something, what would I do?
Well, I'm open for it. That actually, okay. I'll put a pin on what I was about to say, because I want to get to Prax's question, because it's like going up and up in chat, which is great. We're talking and stuff, but I don't want to forget. Opinion of corruption in Blue Rose. So Blue Rose is a game I discovered through Prax. It's an age system, so it's the same rule set as Dragon Age. The game is very inclusive, to the point where like there's an entire chapter devoted to gender and sexuality in the game and how they treat all of that. And it's not only is it well written, but it also makes sense within the fiction of that world. And it's like one of the things that I like is they don't have they have their own word for like a transgendered person. Why? Because they never, like, the concept of gender never appeared in that world. So of course, you know, out of game we're going to use transgender, but in game it should be something different. And then so Blue Rose is this amazing game. It's romantic fantasy, so think more like a fantasy setting where in your adventures the most important things are the bonds you form with your found family. It is like the found family RPG, if you will. It's awesome. And they have a mechanic in it called corruption. And corruption is something that turns you into eventually an undead, basically. Yeah, novels from Mercedes Lackey, Tamora Pierce, and all that. And they have talking animals and a bunch of stuff. But yeah, so corruption is a thing that will happen. Like, if you lie, you might gain corruption. If you murder, you might get corruption. If you if you invade someone's thoughts or force them to have emotions against their will, you get corruption.
I'm sorry, the way that you keep phrasing that, I keep thinking about Jeff Foxworthy.
The references.
The way you've been phrasing it, I keep thinking about Jeff Foxworthy, where he would always go, you know, blah, 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 if you do this and this, you might be a red dead. And so when you're saying it, it's like, oh, if you invade someone else's thoughts, you might be corrupted. That was his whole shit. Now I can't get Jeff Foxworthy out of my mind describing Blue Rose.
But yeah, so my thought on it is, it's especially in a game that's all about acceptance and friendship and you know, all the romantic ideals. And we're talking like romantic, like the literary movement. It's really fun. And corruption is a neat way to show what how evil characters come to be. The only thing that I have that is a bit about corruption, and that's because we might have not seen it a lot in the game, is the more corrupted you are, the uglier you are. Because like you start looking sickly and pale, and like there's black around your eyes, and like I picture it more like the villains in Doctor Strange, with the stuff around their eyes and everything, and like the black veins and all that. Because I don't like the idea of ugly people are evil. That's not how it works. And I know that's not what they mean in the game either, like at all. But if there's a thing that should be clarified, it's that. Um, and of course, you can get rid of corruption, uh, you know, with time and effort. Um, but yeah, it's just it's like a brand um, that stays with you for a while, and it was interesting to play a character. The character that I played basically had this very like clear cut corruption equals evil, no corruption equals good, and didn't really believe in like redemption at first. Um, and that's something I wanted to delve into. Like, what would if I take the idea of a soldier who's been trained to fight against the undead and the demons, um, and then, you know, have them confronted with something very human, not in the sense of like species or whatever, but like what it is to be human. Um, how would they react? How would they learn to like deprogram their brains? I don't know why I said brains plural. They only have one. But whatever. You get my point. Now I had put a pin in something because Anino, you brought a point earlier about maybe one day GMing a game on here. We're gonna undergo a brand change here at Wandering DM. Maybe sooner than I thought. I'll get back to your question, BK, in a second. So I've built this channel for the past almost 4 years now, playing games and everything. I feel like it's time for me to use the base, like the foundation that I've built, to elevate other people. I don't want it to revolve around me, and because I'm the Wandering DM, it cannot be called Wandering DM. So we're gonna change it to the Wandering Society, and basically you'll notice the channel will feature different groups of people where my face isn't in it, also to give me a break, but also because, look, there are some very cool group of people that have very cool stories to tell, and they might be discouraged to do it because when they turn on their cameras they have like 2 viewers. I don't have like 500 people. Like it's not, I'm not like a big YouTuber, Twitch streamer person, but I have a few, and I feel like I should use that. I should use you, chat, because I know you're cool people, and I know you'll love the stories these other groups have to tell. I don't know which group is going to be taken necessarily right away. It's just I'm in talk for something. But you've seen it with Omens Rising. You might see it with the Anino GM'd long form campaign, 52 sessions.
I like how that one shot became a 52 weekly session.
Oh, believe me, you start at a one shot
idea.
and then.
Yeah, no, it sort of just came out of an idea from PAX East because PAX East last year I was short story is I was for my free ticket there I was manning the I Need a First Games table, and that happened to be next to this other table and I forgot the name of it.
Was
But
it
Anita
Take This?
Sarkeesian. I think it was Take This. Was it Take This? No, it wasn't Take This. It was a new one started, a new um, helpline that was started by Anita Sarkeesian.
Okay.
Um, but anyway, one of the folks there who was at that table was a man named Christopher Lee, who has a game that's called The Party at Tiffany Burrell's House. And we were chatting about it. And what this was is basically a game that you can play. It's a one shot where it's sort of like a movie told in 3 parts about a high school party in a 90s suburb. And I felt like that was something I could probably handle and prep as I was reading it. But if anybody has ever had that desire to be in a movie like those 90s teen movies, things like that, that would have been a really fun thing to do. I know there were some people that were definitely interested in doing it, but if anyone ever needed to fulfill that dream or scratch that itch, that would be
Of like playing Footloose the game.
Footloose the game. She's All That. Yeah, it's a pretty lighthearted game, and it had very good rules about consent and stuff. And so I felt that was a really fun, safe one to play. So if anyone wants to channel or relive their high school years in a much better fashion by going to one of those ragers that you see in those types of movies, there's that. 16 Candles. Well, it was more 90s based, but yeah, sure, 16 Candles is definitely the kind of idea.
Oh, for half a second, I was like 16 Candles, the horror game. No, that's 10 candles. I have to count my candles properly, because between Breakfast at Tiffany and 10 candles, there's like a whole gamut of things to go through.
So more like a my personal favorite was 10 Things I Hate About You.
Okay. Okay, so you're really,
I guess, clueless, but
yeah, so it's really more 90s than 80s, because my examples were all from the 80s. Yeah, okay, I remember, I used to watch the Clueless TV series. Wait, is that like a Dawson's Creek RPG?
Yes, it can be. Basically, whatever you remember from 90s teens dramas, some fair game to pull into this.
So like pre-CW?
No, I think that trends into CW too.
Oh, okay. That'd be very interesting. No, I'm definitely interested. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Please let me play a tropey nerd or something.
So I'd be like the whole. Yeah, the whole idea or the premise of the game is that you kind of crash this party and you have to set goals for your character. Like, what do you want your character to do at this party? What class are they in? Are they a freshman? Are they a sophomore, junior, senior? What is your goal for this party and who are you? And things like that. And there are things that all the players are required to do, like on 2 pieces of paper they write something that might have actually happened to them in high school at a party like this, or something that they remember hearing about, things like that. So, you're going to this party to finally reveal your longtime crush on your best friend, or if you're just trying to prove to the mean girls that you're a real force to be reckoned with, things like that. And then the whole resolution of that afterwards when you guys all hang out at the IHOP in the morning, getting raided
Great.
or by the cops.
Furious
So
George,
the
yeah, what's
name of this is Party at Tiffany Burrell's house. Let me see if I can get that link for you.
it reminded me, I should say, of I need to run or play in a game of actually I need to play more than run in a game of Pasión de las Pasiones.
That's the other one that I wanted to play too.
Yeah. Because bring me all the soap opera bullshit, like, and the overacting and the bad hairstyle. Yes, I want that. But also, I might have gotten the itch, the Animon itch. So there might be an Animon campaign later. No, BK, I am not a soap opera fan. I love the tropes. I was a big fan of a series we have here in Quebec that was a parody of soap operas, and it was amazing. It was like the best soap opera I've seen. I mean, I've watched some because when I would spend an afternoon at my grandma's house or something, and she would watch that religiously. I have no idea what's going on in those things, but they are so tropey and so fun. So fun to play with. The series go on forever. That's yeah. But yeah, to go back to Animon, I'm actually starting to look for an artist to draw my personal Animon. Because I think I figured out which monster, like what monster my Animon would look like if I, Simon, was still a kid. So yeah. But
would it be Anjewomon?
No, it wouldn't be Anjewomon. No, it's actually more of a griffin type of animal, of monster. So I have some
maybe maybe we can get Origami. Maybe we can get Origami Shuriken to run a campaign of that on the channel. I just volunteered her, so there.
Bam. I know that Origami and I have to. We still have that. What is it? Elfline. That D&D X Cyberpunk game for charity that will need to happen. It's just taking, with everything that I have to do for both day job and freelancing and all that, there's a lot of projects that I have to put off, like the rebranding for Wandering Society and everything. It's simply because something came up last minute, basically, that it sort of forced me to put it at a higher priority. But yes, we can definitely talk about that, Origami, if you want to GM a game on here. That is entirely possible. And that's something too, with the Wandering Society, all the money that's made during the streams go back to the streamers. I don't take, the only thing I would take is the subscription money, but that's only so that I can make sure that the site, that the Twitch channel keeps running. So pay for the softwares I use for video editing, for overlays and all that, for all the production, basically. And then the rest is just goes back to players, goes back to the GM. But yeah. Awkward silence. I will break it with a game that I enjoyed and that I would hope to play again. Um, and that was mostly because of the dynamic we had around the table. Um, but I want our vamp dads and our gremlin stepson and just I don't know, perfect favorite daughter, I guess, um, because it was amazing. Scott and I as the platonic life partners trying to raise two dumpster fires uh, of young vampires. That was pretty cool. There will be
That was,
eventually. Huh? Go ahead.
yeah, no, I remember that. I watched that every Saturday morning with a bowl of cereal. That was my like new Saturday
Saturday
morning
morning
cartoon.
Yeah. No, it was fun. Ever played much Vampire the Masquerade? Furious George, it's funny you asked that. I actually work on Vampire the Masquerade. That's my job. I don't work on the RPG IP. I am actually one of the two writers on, well, two writers, and we're gonna have a third soon. But you know, can't divulge company secrets. But yes, it's called Vampire the Masquerade's Chapters. It's set in Montreal. It's basically the V5 equivalent of Montreal by Night. So it's gonna have all of the like setting information for the city of Montreal and what it's like now and everything. But it comes in a box that is basically like a pre-made campaign, right? So you have your game. It's a little bit simplified, so like it's a good way to introduce someone to World of Darkness and Vampire. You can either create your own character, or you can take one of the ones that are already created. Um, of course, like the game is made to be played with the ones that are already created, but like they're only like their sheet is like the starting points have already been established, but you can level them up the way you want. And it's a fairly long, like it's like an 80-hour long campaign, 80 to 100 hours. Gorgeous maps, and I don't want to flaunt anything, but like the writing is spectacular. Um, it's yeah, it's like an introduction to the RPGs, and it is like an official Paradox licensed game and everything. So so we have you know, it's not like we're doing this for fun or whatever. We're actually like what I'm writing is canon World of Darkness, because that's how Paradox works. So what they decided to do with Vampire the Masquerade is like, so Chicago, for example, and London have books for the TTRPG. But I don't know if you've noticed, New York has nothing as far as books are concerned. That's because if you want to learn about the story of New York and the kindred of New York and everything, you should play Coteries of New York and Shadows of New York. That's where you're going to get that information. Same thing for Montreal. You're going to get it in our game. Same thing for, you know, Vegas and Seattle and everything. In fact, if memory serves, the events of LA by Night are actually canon. In the new 5th edition setting. So yeah, it's really cool to work on that. So yes, have I played Vampire? Yes. Have I played World of Darkness? Many games of World of Darkness. I'm actually looking at starting a game of Hunter 2nd edition. Probably when the game comes out though, because you know, busy. But yes, I eat, drink, and breathe a vampire like 40 hours a week. And it's amazing. And there's like so many things that I would like to say, but I'm I can't say shit. But all I can say is you should keep an eye on my Twitter account because I will retweet when this announcement comes out. Um, but yeah, it's yeah, things are happening. Very fun things are happening. Um, if you want, actually, if you're just George, if you have um, Tabletop Simulator on Steam, we have a demo, but it's an older version of the game. So you can play the demo, but like when you sit down to play the real game, you'll realize that the scenarios have changed. Um, it's the introduction to the Gangrel, the Malkavian, and the Ventrue character. And they represent all three pillars of the game. So the Gangrel is like the tutorial for combat, the Ventrue is tutorial for like social intrigues, and the Malkavian is tutorial for investigations, which I love how we do investigations. Um, and then the first scenario of the game where like all the characters meet up together and do stuff. So you can get them on the Steam Workshop. You just have to look for Vampire the Masquerade chapters. Um, but again, bear in mind that this is an older version. Uh, we we've updated the content the last time in like November, I believe. And like I rewrote the entire Malkavian prologue completely. So it's not at all the same thing that happens. It takes place in the same place, but it's not what you see on Tabletop Simulator. Why? Because we can always improve on stuff, because we listen to our players and like the comments that people leave on either like Steam for that or Kickstarter or Board Game Geek and whatnot, and that's how we tweak things as we go along. Because in the end, we're making the game for people to play. Like, so it should actually, have what people want in it. Um, so yeah, it's super fun. It is dream job. Like I can say that I am now a full-time professional game designer, and that was like top of my bucket list. So I win. I don't know where else to go after that. um, but yeah, my favorite World of Darkness game, by the way, is Geist. Um, I am a big Geist fan because I am obsessed with death and grief and how people process these things. And Geist is like the ultimate, I don't want to die game. And once you're dead, like, what are you gonna do? Um, if you're given a second chance at life, what will you do? And Geist is a lot like the TV series Ghost Whisperer, which I really enjoyed, not just for the main actress, whose name I don't remember. Um, but yeah, Geist is definitely in the top. Uh, Changeling, huh?
You forgot Jennifer. I'm sorry, you forgot Jennifer Love Hewitt's name.
Yep, I was gonna say Jennifer Aniston the first time. But yes, I forgot her name. I mean, look, I make mistakes. Um, but yeah, so that was my like favorite. Hunter is one of my is in the top. The original Demon the Fallen, I love, but Demon the Fallen is very very much like Christianocentric. Um, it you would have too much work you would have to strip the whole book and play something different if you wanted to incorporate other religions in it, which is something I love about Scion. Um, and Changeling the Dreaming. No, Changeling the Lost. I really want to play because I think that's going to be one of my favorite. Changeling the Dreaming, haven't read enough about it, but I've read The Lost and I loved it. Um, Mage the Awakening is definitely in one of my favorite. Less favorite games like Promethean. What's the other one? Well, there was Werewolf Forsaken, because that was just strange. Shit, I had it and I forgot. Oh, Mummy, that's it. Mummy. Not really interested in. Um, I mean, I love the cartoon like Mummy's Alive. I don't know if you remember that, Anino.
That one's a new one on me.
Yeah, it was like superhero mummies that lived in a modern pyramid, and they could like transform and shit. Yeah, Furious George, I want to play. I don't have a VR. I do have the space for it now, but I don't have the hardware for it. And but yeah, Wraith the Oblivion. Wraith is very interesting. I mean, it's what Geist is basically Wraith Second Edition. But there's a twist to it that I love. And Origami says I haven't thought about that show in ages. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I remember stuff like that. I actually, fun fact, 7 years ago, I went on a website and I left an ad on this old website. And when I say old website, I mean, yeah, it looks like it was made in GeoCities. So I left an ad because I was looking for a specific cartoon. One that that I had seen as a child. So my problem is most of the things that I watched as a child were translated into French. So it's already harder to try to find something that is originally in English because titles in French, more often than not, they don't make sense. It is a crew of dogs that work on a ship. And it took 7 years for someone to reply. I got an email recently like, oh yeah, your post has a reply, and like the person just like posted a photo of the cover of like the VHS or whatever. And in English it's called Sea Dogs. In French it doesn't even have the word sea or the word dog in the title. You know, much harder to find. But yes, I really love that show, and so I regularly like search for old cartoons and shit. That's why I remember Mummy's Alive, because why not?
That just reminded me of something. I had uploaded the cartoons that I had complete series of to a Google Drive, and I forgot to share it with the group. But in it has Gargoyles, Batman Beyond, Justice League Unlimited, Young Justice, and Pirates of Darkwater that I found on or collected over the years from places like LimeWire.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are these legit places? Where's my I have, so like Gargoyles, I have Disney Plus, so I can watch it. Yeah, Wildcats was amazing. Oh yeah, I was looking for a comic a long while ago. I was talking to Hannah about it, and I finally found it. It's a DC. It's called Deviate. DV and the number 8. And it's part of the DC universe. But I had like a bunch of their comics at home, and they just vanished. So I like read part of it and never could finish like any of the stories, any of the storylines. As far as cartoons are, I have Cyber 6. Huh? Go ahead.
Side note, one thing that I just wanted to point out is that the artist who drew DV8 drew my character.
Oh, for real? Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's what I thought it was so funny. I'm like, yeah.
So I should have asked you about it.
Now I feel up.
But the thing is I didn't
DV8?
remember. Yeah, but I didn't remember anything about it aside from there's a girl whose power is to alter the density of her body.
Yeah. So I actually remember DV8 specifically because that was a spin-off of another series called Gen 13. So these were all spin-offs or under the Wildstorm imprint. So delving back into comic book history and comic book publisher history, in the 90s, a group of, famous, popular comic book artists in Marvel at the time and their friend Rob Liefeld, see what I did there? They broke off and formed Image, and then eventually Image broke out into two other groups. You had Image, and then you had Wildstorm Comics, and Wildstorm Comics was spearheaded by Jim Lee, and there were some other artists that sort of came into prominence over there. But one of their more popular titles was Gen 13, and which was their take on the late 90s comic book teen superhero genre. I think that's where Scott Campbell got his start in, and folks like a lot. But yeah, so DV8 was a spin-off of Gen 13 because basically DV8 was a villain a villain group to offset. And
okay.
Yeah, and so that's why I remembered them specifically. But actually, let me see if I can. I didn't post that one yet on my
Okay, so it's not part
Twitter
of
line.
the art that was already.
That was already posted. No, probably shared it at one point, but it was a pretty badass picture.
I mean, I'll wait for you to post it. But yeah, so yeah, I just looked through my library of comics, and unfortunately, I do not have a lot of them anymore. I deleted them. I just kept Cyber 6. Yeah, I recognize the DV8 style. Definitely.
She was cool. Rebecca, she got her start doing the Buffy the Vampire Slayer comics, which I thought was really cool person, though.
And let me just go. Oh, it's your DeviantArt. Sorry, I thought it was ArtStation for a moment. I don't know why.
I don't know why I still have a DeviantArt page, but there it is.
Yeah, oh, sure. Wait, Ramprat? Ramprat.
Rampart.
Yeah, but no. It's reciprocal action, multi-parallel readiness, and triage. So it's Ramprat. I don't want to break anything. But I just read the seal.
I thought I would have been careful about something.
Blades of Darkness. I'm pretty new to the whole TTRPG scene, but that one caught my interest. Blades of Darkness. No, I have Bend of Blades. And then there's Blades in the Dark. But Blades of Darkness RPG.
I've heard of Blades in the Dark.
Yeah, that
Seen
all.
that played.
I typed in Blades of Darkness RPG and it brought me straight to Blades in the Dark. So is that what you meant, Furious George? Or otherwise, if you have like a link to like the PDF or well, not the PDF, but like a drive-through RPG page or something. It did catch my eye. I have Band of Blades, which is a Black Company inspired version of Blades in the Dark. Yeah, okay, Blades in the Dark, yeah. So I have Band of Blades, which is I really like reading the Black Company, just the first book, because then you know everybody dies. So it's very interesting. What? You read the first book. You have it. Yeah, everybody dies except for like one person. They change. Yeah, the company changes. The people in the company change. Like, huh? No, but it's hyperbole. I always do hyperbole. But yeah, and Band of Blades is a Blades in the Dark game. But instead of playing like criminals in a city, which is very cool in itself, you play this like group of mercenaries caught behind enemy lines, and what you do with it. Oh, Prax says that she has the complete collection of Black Company, and that was the foundation of her friendship with one of her oldest friends. Well, I mean, if you want to talk Black Company with Rin, I know she really enjoyed it by the look she gave me when I said everybody dies, and that I was wrong. But yeah, so the Ramprat thing? I'm sorry, Anino.
No, it's Rampart, but yeah. So that was basically the second act of Bayani's story, where he was a federal operative with his Jew teammates.
Mm.
And then we'll have to discover why they are not a team anymore.
Indeed. But I think your ex-teammates are players that are actually going to come play too in the game, right?
Yes. Yeah. So the people who created those characters were Kazemi and Madeline, who were also in the Dark Matter campaign that Origami Shuriken hosted. So we all played City of Heroes together, and basically, we role played as our characters, and we went all the way from level 1 to 50, and then through the end game as a team. So,
I think my highest character in City of Heroes ended up at I keep remembering Trollbark, but I was after that, I know. But I wasn't far. I hadn't gone to space yet. Like, at all. I hadn't fought, like, the aliens or something. Like, the last...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely super end game.
Yeah, no, I've never... Because I had the... I loved the character creation. So my thing was just to make a bunch of characters.
Yeah, that was a real thing. People called that altitis.
Yeah, I did the same thing in Champions Online after that.
Yeah.
And yeah, oh, thank you, Consave. Hello. we're just doing the chat tonight, and I call it being a GM. Yeah, that's what happens when you're a Forver GM. And you eventually, hello Canadian Moose, you eventually, have like this bank of NPCs or characters that you really want to play, and that's the problem that I have in many campaigns is like after, and you see it online when I play in long form campaigns. After a while, I'm like, can I kill off my character and change for another one? I'd like to try more stuff. I want to play. I want to try a bunch of stuff. So yeah. Hi, Nom de Soul, or Nom de Soul, or no, yeah, it wouldn't be Nom de Soul. But yeah, like I've got well, I don't have my fill of cyberpunk characters yet, but like Elf was someone I had in my mind for a while. Even though nobody likes him, I like him.
I want to say that nobody's characters really liked him. I think everybody thought that was thought he was hilarious as a side art. Characters though were like, I can't believe we're hanging out with this guy.
But like, he's an actual idol. Well, he was.
Yeah, no, I know. That's why I thought it was hilarious.
Like, it's people used to love him. Yeah, Prax says, I see you 3 different characters in Falkenstein. Yeah. But now not going to change my character in Falkenstein anymore. I think I settled on Gentleman Thief is really the archetype I like in Victorian settings. Because I did like the Victorian mage, and then I did the army captain, the very thirsty army captain, and then but
I would love to play Castle Falkenstein again, and then I had a great time in that one shot.
what the hell? Hello?
Oh, I was like, what is going on?
My headset turned itself off. And there's plenty of battery left. So I don't know. Well, I say there's plenty of battery left, but yeah, I'm at 75%, so I don't know. Yeah, so you said you wanted to play Falkenstein. I know that there will be more Falkenstein on the channel, so you can just nudge Chris, and
he's busy. I'm not gonna bug him about it now. But,
nah, I didn't mean like tonight at 11:35, like especially since Chris is sick tonight.
Hey, when are we starting that campaign? No. Is that? I remember Prax mentioning something about a mech campaign going on.
Yeah.
Which, we're waiting on.
Are you playing in it?
I don't know. Maybe. Not sure what's going on yet. I just remember there was talk about that one.
Oh, okay. I don't know anything about a mecha game either. Apparently, I've been told to. Yeah. So I don't know anything. I don't know anything about anything. It's there will be a game.
I mean, like I remember. Yeah, I was checking out. Speaking of other mech games, there is one that I've been sort of checking out. Grant spoke highly of it. He liked it. Was Lancer, which was a fairly crunchy system, but pretty cool. Good stuff there too. yeah, I don't know if I have anything else left on my sort of bucket list. It's now just a matter of playing regularly, at least 1 or 2 games a week.
Yeah. Well, you already have 2. I'm gonna go
3.
make myself a coffee, but I can still hear everything and talk. I won't be on camera for like 2 minutes.
Cool.
But yeah, you're on. Well, yeah, 3 now with Sentinels, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're in 3 of my campaigns, and I'm running 5 of them. So you're basically 60%. Like your face is in 60% of my games.
Yeah. And the week is yeah. So my week is basically all games now. Usually I'm spread out around 3 channels, but right now it's just this channel. I keep meaning to play more games on my channel, seeing as that I have Monster Hunter Rise right now. Pokemon Snap came out today. I still need to play through Persona 5 Strikers. Yeah, so a lot going on.
Yeah,
I've been busy with other hobbies.
you
And
didn't
also
buy
this thing called work.
Pokemon. What?
And this thing called work.
Yeah, it occupies a big part of the week, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, so did you get Pokemon Snap?
I did not. I forgot it came out today. I was probably just going to go buy it online and download it. You know what I notice about Nintendo Switch games in general is that they're, depending on the game, I feel like the experience playing on a television screen when your Switch is docked versus playing it handheld is very different. I feel that Monster Hunter Rise, after playing Monster Hunter World, is much better on a screen than it is playing on your handheld. And the same goes for Pokemon for Persona 5 Strikers, which is one of those Mugen style games where you are fighting wave after wave of like hundreds of minions till you get to a big boss fight. I don't feel like that really translates very well to a small screen. So, yeah, those are 2 games that I wanted to play, but they're not games that you can sort of just take with you to play on the go. I think Pokemon Snap might be a little bit different in that sense, where it'll be good and fun to play it on a small screen as well as the big screen.
Yeah, well,
I'm all about that.
the whole
I'm just about that in the whole user experience and setting yourself up to comfortably enjoy whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, because I mean, Pokemon Snap, there's a lot of things that you can probably do with the handheld. Like the fact that you're holding it in your hand versus playing on a screen, like what it was on the N64, right?
Yes, that's right.
So yeah. It's on my like to download list. But I have other games. And then I have, work and stream.
Yes. I'm trying not to play too much of Monster Hunter Rise because the game is going to come out on PC, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be better on PC than it is on the Switch, just based on how Monster Hunter World went. But and plus, everybody I know is going to be playing it on the PC rather than the Switch, so I'm just holding off for that. I just
Rise is the one where you get a dog and a cat, right?
Yep. Although that's kind of a mischaracterization because you can actually do 2 dogs or 2 cats with you.
Ooh.
So,
Well then, yeah, if that
but,
one comes out on PC, yeah, I'm gonna be playing on PC.
I think it's
Because
better on a PC than it is on the Switch.
mm,
Immortals Phoenix Rising. I don't think I'm familiar with that game. I shall Google it.
um, yeah, because right now, most of my life was occupied by Valheim. Um, and then, like in 2 months, I know I'm going back to ESO. So there's that.
What
Um,
what's happening in 2 months there?
it's the new expansion, Blackwood. Wait,
Oh,
BK says you're running 5 games. Um, yeah, Monday, Wednesday. Well, I'm gonna have one on Wednesday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I have a 6-1, which is offline with my home group. So yeah, I'm running games 6 days a week. Well, I shouldn't say six days because like Saturdays I'm running too. Scion in the morning, in the afternoon, and then my home group in the evening. And the game with my home group is about the only time where I GM in French now. And even then, it's mostly in English anyway. But the home group game is on pause for Omen's Rising. So we don't stream it, but I'm doing production for Omen. So I'll be down to 5 a week for the next 4 weeks, and then back back to 6 a week. I used to
this
have 7.
Immortals Phoenix Rising game looks good.
Isn't that the? No,
I
that's
might.
Horizon Zero Dawn. Huh. Furious thoughts on Cyberpunk Combat Zone? I wish I had the funds, if only for the miniatures. I didn't look into how what the game was. I know it's like a skirmish, like tabletop, like skirmish game, right? Um, it's a board game. It looks interesting, um, but really, all I want are the maps and the minis. That like 40-inch modern map, like of just like it's an intersection, right? Um, but yes, I don't have any modern maps for like physical play, and all of those minis are just gorgeous. So I might just end up kickstarting it for the add-ons instead of the actual game, and get me some of those cool cool cyberpunk minis. I don't know if they come pre-painted though. I really hope they do, but they probably don't. So I'm not gonna paint them because I already have like 4 Reaper miniatures worth of 4 Reaper miniatures Kickstarters worth of minis. So like 2,000 minis that I need to paint. Um, I will come around to it maybe, but I'm not a great painter and not a fast one either. So I tend to want to go for like pre-painted stuff. I know that, for example, the miniatures that come in Vampire Masquerade chapters, you can get them either unpainted or pre-painted, depending on like which tier you kickstarted for. You backed it at, I should say. So that's cool. And yeah, it's to come back to Cyberpunk Combat Zone. As far as new board games go, I really wanted to get Undercity, um, the new Warhammer Hero Quest like game. It looked really fun. And I'll be honest, the reason why I really want it in the first place is because I saw that they have an actual Inquisitor in it with the hat and everything. And I'm like, yes, I've been wanting to have minis like that because that's the character I play in every Warhammer game. Even my go-to army in 40k is a mix of Imperial Space Marines and basically agents of the Inquisition. Um, so yeah. But Undercity was like sold out in a matter of like minutes after they were shipped to stores, or pre-orders were up on the Games Workshop website. So I'ma wait. I mean, worst case scenario, someone will put it up on, or GW will put it on Tabletop Simulator or something. I'll be able to play there. But yeah, no, I'm really happy for both Talsorian Games and Monster Miniatures that their Kickstarter worked well. Because it's cool to see more more Cyberpunk stuff, but also like we've played just about every game that Talsorian made, aside from Mechton and Teenagers from Outer Space on this channel. So yeah, like I love what pretty much everything Talsorian does. Mechton, well, I might at some point. And then Teenagers from Outer Space, I'm less sure. It's an anime game, but I really like. I'd rather sit and play a game because I don't think I would have any inspiration to GM1. And I know Lindy did like a run of Teenagers from Outer Space that lasted a long while. But yeah. So Monster Hunter coming out on PC, that's cool. So that was the main reason why I didn't get it, is because it was on the Switch, and I barely ever play on my Switch. Okay, it's not there yet.
No, I think it's probably going to be released in 2022. So.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm gonna have time to do other stuff then, to play other games. I mean, I am eagerly awaiting the release of Baldur's Gate 3.
Have they added anything new to that?
Yeah.
I made it to the end point of the finished content, and then I stopped.
Well, there's nothing else to do anyway.
Yeah. No, I got a little pissed off about that monster I ran into.
Which one?
I didn't want to spoil it, but Bullet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Bullet's problematic. I don't know when you played, but with the Druid update, so they added the Druid class, but they also changed and added a lot of stuff to the game that wasn't there originally. So like there's a lot of plants that you can pick up now. They don't do anything yet because crafting hasn't been revealed in the early access. So you don't have any. You can sell them. Basically, that's all there is to it. There's a few more quests that have been added. Like for example, if you play as the Druid, there's an entire like quest line where you can actually become like the leader of the Grove.
Interesting.
Yeah. They added. It's like a buggy thing, but in the Mind Flayer ship, in some games when you play and you get to Shadowheart, there is now an item on a table called the Pod Key. It doesn't do anything yet, but I get the feeling that there will be a way to free Shadowheart in the real game.
Oh.
Because if you think about it, if you play the game as Lae'zel, the Githyanki, who are you going to get during the tutorial? Like, it's missing an NPC. And that would be, Shadowheart. And I really can't wait for them to add the good aligned NPCs so that we don't have just the neutral and evil ones. I want to see more NPCs on my team. I mean, I'm perfectly good with Gale and Will right now. I will be honest, the vampire just stays in camp and he can mope all he wants, but he's gonna stay in camp, and that's it.
Is Will the swashbuckler?
Yeah, Will is the warlock swashbuckler.
Oh yeah.
The Blade of Frontiers.
He died in my playthrough. He died in the first encounter, which I thought was really weird because in that encounter, sorry for the spoilers, you know how he comes in with his dramatic entrance?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He comes in that dramatic entrance. Yeah, he died in that battle. He got chonked by one of the enemies there. And I was just like, well, guess I'll never know what this guy's all about.
Yeah, they reworked that battle a lot. Now the tiefling that helps you, well, he didn't do much originally. Now if you don't do anything, they will win the fight. The NPCs will win the fight. It's just some of them might die. Like in one game that I did, all 3 of the mercenaries were killed. Only Will survived. Because, because roll of the die, a goblin critted, the mercenary missed all the time. I was a priest who used Sacred Flame, and everyone keeps passing their saving throws, so I do jack shit. So yeah, but it is easier. That fight is definitely easier. They've added a little bit of content to the Underdark. I know there's a cool magical longsword that you can get in the Underdark. Like a unique weapon. And then the rest is just setting the table for things to come. Like, for example, at some point you find cultists that pass off as paladins. The two-handed sword that the leader fights with is now marked as a story item, and you can't sell it. So there's something about this blade that will be important. I did not find it in the game. I know the item exists, but there is a magical chair leg that is it's like the cudgel of strength of giant strength or something like that. Basically it's a club, but it boosts your strength to 15 when you wield it. So very good for a combat cleric, combat druid with Shillelagh. Sorry. Oof. Took me a while. With Shillelagh, because you could start with shit strength score and not be able to carry anything, and then once you get that club anyway, you're gonna fight with your cantrip, but at least you'll have a carry capacity. There's a few other things that they tweaked here and there. I don't remember all of them, but it was different enough when I played after the patch that I was like, okay, it was fun to see those little changes. So I'm hoping another, because it's gonna be a year soon. It's gonna be a year in 6 months. So
Has it been a year already?
Well, it's been 6 months already. It was released in October. September or October, something like that. And then the Divinity Original Sin early access lasted a year. So I'm thinking, they probably have a lot of things ready. I know that Larian said that they wanted to, like, the things that they're releasing for the early access, they're releasing the hardest, like the hardest classes to implement first. So like the Druid was one of the hardest to code and everything. And then, well,
That's
the next
because
one,
of the
it's the wild
from
shapes.
the wild shape. Yeah.
It's the wild shape thing. Well, for example, you get you can get a Druid ally during the game, but they remain in bear form all the time. Yet now that they're properly, coded as a Circle of the Moon Druid, they can use their spell slot to heal. But because the game hasn't, the early access doesn't go past 4th level, you can never use 3rd level spell slots to heal. Like, they're there. You see that the character has them. But you'll never be, like, the button will gray out before it happens. So, like, before you get the 3rd level, because they're not implemented. How do you guys feel about Diablo 4?
I think the only Diablo I played was 2. Where I played a druid. Funnily enough.
Yeah, Druid was cool in Diablo 2. Diablo 4, my opinion is meh. I've uninstalled Battle.net. There's, like, I mean, I'm interested in the new Overwatch because of the PvE. So I might, like, look at it, see what it is before buying it. But there's a lot of things that Blizzard have done that, like, I didn't like the direction they took for Diablo 3. So I can't even say I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm just cautious. And after what they did to the team of for Heroes of the Storm, and the fact that most of the like original creators of the company have all left, who knows what's going to happen? So it might be good. But, like, I didn't like the fact that in Diablo 3 you were like this chosen one type of thing, and there was a lot less customization than you had in Diablo 2. So far, Diablo 2 remains my favorite. But I'm not going to buy the remake, the remaster.
Yeah, remastering Diablo 2.
Yeah, instead of releasing Diablo 4.
I don't know why I'm laughing at that, because I'll buy every single Pokemon remake that ever comes out. So,
Hey, Vampire Bites, welcome. Yeah, but I don't know enough about the insider information about the Pokemon Company. But I don't think they treat their staff like Blizzard treated theirs.
no, I don't think so. I don't know. I try not to delve too much into the whole Pokemon community thing, just because it's like any other fandom or longtime video game franchise. A lot of unhappy voices.
Oh yeah, I'm talking like just like purely employees.
Yep, pure employees. That's why I don't play. I don't play any Blizzard games anymore. I don't play League of Legends. Riot does.
Mm-hmm.
Just funny though, remembering the druid class in Diablo 2, which I thought was pretty cool because I've played a lot of druids. I played a druid in our Dark Matter campaign, but ironically, I didn't use any of the wild shape skills very much at all. I think I used it once to transform into a penguin.
Fair. I haven't played a druid in D&D period.
But I thought playing a druid of the obelisk in the Dark Matter campaign was pretty cool. The evolution stone ability.
The 2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah, there's that. Then yeah, had enough healing spells, so I was primarily healing party and buffing everybody. But we got crazy powerful at the end of that campaign.
Yeah, my players too at the end of the end of my Dark Matter campaign, where they like basically like dropped a supernova on the last boss.
The last boss was pretty tough in that one, but yeah, I finally I got to use my character's background ability at the end of that one too. The non-believer, which was whenever you see another character get healed by magic, they lose that many hit points instead of regain it.
Oh no.
So I healed the big bad boss just so I could trigger that ability.
Vampire Bites played a druid back in first edition, converted it to second. Yeah. I would have liked to see. I remember. I think the druid. If you wanted to be a druid in first edition, you had like a bunch of requirements. Because you had to have levels in Bard, so you had to have the requirements for Bard levels before, and then getting because the druids in first edition were like the oral tradition keepers. Like they were closer to the historical druids. Oh, that was Bard. Oh, okay.
You had to get druid to be a bard?
Something like that. It's either you had to get Bard to become druid, or druid to become Bard. Either or.
Oh,
I mean, I've never played first. I've read the books because I have them, but it's been like I don't thumb through them for references anymore. But yeah, sheesh. I would have liked to see what it was like in first. Like I know them in second because of me playing Baldur's Gate every year. And then of course, you know, I saw them in third edition because I GM'd a bunch of games. But like I never sat down to okay, bards were X level fighter, Y level rogue, and then 1 level of mage, and that became your first bard level. Okay.
My goodness.
Yeah. No, bards were something, and then second edition they like changed completely. Yeah, no one played bards back then. I figure. But yeah, no, it just.
I probably would have played it, and then no one would have liked me.
Yeah, first edition, I think. First edition, I probably would have played a ranger anyway. Because let's face it, I always play rangers, regardless of the edition, regardless of the game. But yeah, no, druid, it just never happened. I'll have to come up with like a druid. After watching the first season of Critical Role, I was like, I want to make a spellcasting druid, like one that doesn't wild shape, because I feel like wild shape is a thing that they've tied druids to a lot, but I feel like you could do a lot more. Um, so
That's kind of why I played the druid that I did, was that I didn't want to just do the whole wild shaping thing.
yeah, the Vampire Bite with this with their first character being a dwarf, both the race and the class. Yeah, and you had like a maximum of levels that you could not go beyond, and all of that. That was weird. That was strange. Um, Second edition was kind of the same with like races and levels, which I never understood.
Yeah, I didn't get that at all.
It was just weird. It's theoretically for a game balance thing, but like unless you really reach 20th level all the time, why? Like it's not gonna matter. And actually, that's we talked about like things we would change in D&D earlier. There is something I would like to change. Set the classes up to level 10 or 12 in the player's handbook.
Just start
Because
them there.
no, I mean have like 12 levels total. Because if you
Oh,
look at all the class abilities and everything, the higher your level, the less. And we said earlier, like there is no actual game balance. Like the game isn't balanced. None of the RPGs should be anyway, because it's all for fun. But like there are some like abilities that you just go like, why? It doesn't feel like it's. It doesn't feel good enough. It doesn't feel satisfying. But if you look at level 12 and below, and I'm saying level 12 because of like all the adventures recently that Wizards has published is all like level 1 to 12 thereabouts. But I should say 1 to 10 should be your thing. And then yeah, sure. Get another book called like the Epic Level Handbook, and that's like 11 to 20, right? But then you'll have like two distinct type of campaigns, and you can focus properly on the different power levels. And because you can have some realism in D&D up to level 10. After that, the laws of physics do not exist for your character. But yeah, that's another thing I would change. I've always been more interested in a more modern setting like Cyberpunk, World of Darkness, Blade Runner, that sort of thing. Yeah, actually, World of Darkness is the like Onyx Path edition of World of Darkness. Like I use a lot of what they do in many of my games. We did it with Scion, even though Scion doesn't actually use these things, but like you know how we created Niantic together? Like we added places like the bar, the Chinese
sure.
restaurant, the club that we're gonna have to start doing something with it now that you have the money to buy it. Oh, thank you,
Yeah,
Bramster. Old World of Darkness is your favorite after Cyberpunk for the setting, and Cyberpunk for the rules. See, Old World of Darkness is so rich in lore that it's both, to me, a good and a bad thing. They've tied everything so much to Cain and Abel that, like for example, Enoya, the original gangrel, is also the mother of all werewolves. So werewolves descend from vampires. Tell me how this is supposed to make sense. Like it's at some point it was just the tie-ins got too much. But I love the idea of you have this entire world and things that happen because of like some things that the mages did will also affect other game lines. It feels like it's like a living world, a breathing world. But yeah, like you said, um, the setting had to die when it did. Yeah, because at some point you're gonna fill your bubble, and then you have to pop it and burst it and start over, which is what they're doing with V5, and I like a lot of the things that they're. In fact, there's not really much that I don't like. Like the stuff that I don't like about V5 has been removed from the books, so that's good. The fact that they were there in the first place is a problem. Um, uh, so Vampire Bites. The thing about V5 is it's post Gehenna. Uh, so there was a Gehenna, which was not like the adventure at the end of the. Um, they might do Mage actually, but they're gonna start with Werewolf first. So yeah, Gehenna happened, and anyway, lore-wise, it's very interesting in how basically all the old vampires that were too powerful for any player to do anything, they got eaten. They're gone. And now we leave room for growth. Um, but the hunger mechanics in V5 is very interesting. Um, I guess I can just identify more with modern futuristic settings. Yeah. I mean, I've known players that were like, I will never play an RPG where you fire a gun. Because they just weren't into that. That's cool. Everyone has their own tastes. Um, it's like when I discovered Shadowrun originally. Like the things I didn't like about Shadowrun were was the magic. So that's why I love Cyberpunk, because it's exactly what I've always wanted in a Cyberpunk game, except I didn't know it existed. Um,
Yeah.
um,
I mean, like I personally, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not a really big fan of just traditional fantasy and such, but urban fantasy is a whole different thing for me. So, Dresden Files, and it's why I enjoy Scion as much as I do, because that's pretty much, in that whole urban fantasy um, kind of setting. And there are quite a few urban fantasy authors out there who, write people of color as their main characters um, in those novels and such. And so I feel it's a little bit more welcoming in that sense.
mm-hmm. Well, it's a more modern genre too, so there's a lot of like more modern sensibilities that were brought to it. Pramster with I'm an art snob, and unfortunately I got into Cyberpunk as of the Red. It's a good thing. Honestly, Red is my favorite edition. It doesn't have the same amount of stuff that 2020 had, but that's because 2020 had years to build up. But Red is going to have years to build. And honestly, if you're an art snob, do not look at the artwork from the old Cyberpunk games. It's not that great.
It's very 90s comic book art style.
Yeah. And yes, The Witcher TTRPG is very good too. Not saying that just because I worked on it, but yes, the Witcher TTRPG is more in line with what I like about a medieval fantasy. Um, it's more realistic, it's grittier. You're gonna think twice before heading into combat. Now, does it have other issues related to the setting and everything? Yes. Um, because like nothing. We can't have anything. Uh, Primester said we need more books. Yes, they are coming. I worked on the Tome of Chaos, which was announced at Gen Con last year. It's the one, not the next one. The next one is the Book of Tales, which is a basically both a mini campaign setting in itself. It explores different areas of the continent, but it's got a bunch of like adventures, and it has rules for new stuff that I don't know if it was announced or not, but I think it was, to finally introduce like all the other races that are supposed to be in the setting. And then Tome of Chaos after that. So Tome of Chaos is all about mages and magic. I should say all about magic. And it's pretty good. So yeah. I'm actually a big fan of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd edition. Because I like when my players, when we create a group and you ask like, okay, so what's your class or whatever equivalent? And their players are like, I'm an innkeeper, and I'm a rat catcher, and I'm a tax collector. Cool, we're gonna have a game. And it's just going to be about, like, we'll play in a city. And, we'll start the game with foreclosure of the inn. So the last boss is going to be like the mayor or something. Like you're gonna have something that is more grounded in quote unquote reality. You can have some pretty heroic things still in Warhammer. I have seen uh, a dwarf fell a troll in one shot. And that's a feat in that game. But I have also seen an entire combat between an assassin and his mark where everyone missed for 6 turns consecutively. That's a problem with the game. Ooh, I don't know Artesia. Oh, is that what you meant by art snob? I thought you meant art as in like art, like paintings and sculptures and stuff. Artesia Adventure in the Known World. Let me just do a quick Google. Artesia. Adventures in the Known World. I don't know what it is. Okay, it's not like our known world. Oh, an expensive adaptation of Talsorian's life path character generation system, including birth omens, star signs, and divine and heroic lineage. Ah. A tarot-like system. Wow. I might actually just put that on the wish list. There we go. Thank you, Pramster. It has mature content. That's okay with me.
In fact, that just moves it right up the list for him.
Yeah, depends what type of mature content, but yeah, no, I'm fine with it. That's not a problem here. Do you work across all World of Darkness games? Right now, Furious, I've already said too much. Yes, I'm only working on Vampire. That is all. Yes, I'm working on Vampire the Masquerade. Will I work on different branches of World of Darkness if something else comes out? Probably. Like, I will
Redacted.
want to. But
You will probably not find out about it until it's released.
well, people won't find out about it until it's
Yeah,
released.
that's what I meant.
Okay. Well, actually, we tend to release a lot of stuff to our backers beforehand. So like they get like sneak peeks of stuff. And yeah. I feel bad now. I didn't say anything that like I'm not allowed to say. But I shouldn't have said the word right now. Is there still stuff coming out for Changeling or Mage? I don't know. Right now, Paradox is not doing anything for Mage or Changeling. They're focusing, so they focused on Vamp. Now, there was like this, you probably saw the news that Hunters Entertainment was going to work on a Werewolf, and then it was folded back into Paradox and then moved to Renegade Studios. So, like, we know they are working on Werewolf. Probably they'll do the others after. Like, if there's a market for Mage, they'll probably work on it. And then Changeling, and then, you know, all of the others. Yeah, it's mostly just VTM. Yeah. I know that there's a Kickstarter to going on to like revive the Eternal Struggle card game, which I thought is was a very clever card game. But you needed like 5 people to play it. But winning by voting that you're the winner and forcing people to vote for you is always fun. Because it's like, you know, okay, I declare myself the winner. Motion for vote. Oh, your vampire's dominated. Oh, by the way, I actually had control over your vampire and he votes for me. Oh, and also, I'm the prince of whatever. I win. It was like a whole game of like bluffing with the other players, and that was amazing. But you needed so many players to play that you could rarely get a group together. It's already hard to get a gaming group together for like an ongoing campaign or whatever. To get a group together to play a card game once in a blue moon was not gonna happen. Yeah. And I know there's another vampire game coming out too. Shit, what was the name of it? It's a different type of game because it plays across the ages. I think it's Vampire Dynasties or something like that. Where you're basically playing like the Methuselahs and you know, playing a long game of chess with the other players. So yeah, there's stuff for. They released also in December. There's a free book if you have a Paradox account, which is free to create anyway. That has the Tzimisce, the Salubri, and the Ravnos in it. Everything to play these 3 clans. So you can play like, it's like the first tease into the Sabbat and what it's gonna be like. because the Ravnos are now part of the Sabbat. No, the Salubri are part of the Sabbat. Sorry. The Ravnos are still independent. And well, the Tsimichi were always Sabbat. And the art is disgustingly good. They show like flesh monsters and you just go like, ew, it's got teeth where it's not supposed to. But like they did it like realistically. Like it's like a Photoshop of whatever, but it's like Uncanny Valley type of thing. I realize it is now midnight here.
It is.
I think we've covered a bunch of subjects today, of topics.
I do.
But we've also been live for like 4 hours, which is to date one of my longest streams. And while I could still go on because I've had a lot of tea and some coffee, I need to prep for tomorrow's Scion game. Because, you know, we're playing Scion in like 12 hours, y'all. So, there's that to be done. And then get things ready for Omen's Rising. So, I think we'll just do shoutouts. If you have anything you want to shout out, Anino?
I don't think so. Everything that I'm doing right now on streams is here. So.
Well, you could shout out
covered.
like your flash fic and everything.
I could
Put the
I
link
guess.
in.
Yeah, well, I have a landing page over at aninogaming.com. Best place to keep up with whatever it is that I'm doing is to check my Twitter at Anino Gaming. Yeah, right now I've been posting art of Bayani every day leading up to our campaign. I think it was really funny when Pooja saw some of the art. I was like, "Oh, now you're making me want to get art of my character." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's probably going to happen, though, at some point."
Yeah.
I mean, it happened in the Cyberpunk Red campaign.
Yeah, but also Cyberpunk Red, we had commissioned art like prior to the campaign.
Yeah,
but in this case, it's gonna happen after. But yeah. So otherwise, well, thanks for chatting with me, Anino. I kind of like this format.
Yeah, this was cool.
I might do other Just Chatting streams where I just invite like a friend and we talk about stuff. It's better than talking to yourself and being by yourself with chat. Also, because as Quentin pointed out earlier, I do not have a hot tub. It's been lost in the mail, so I cannot do that. I'm not doing the meta. But that said, and by the way, all the more power to those streamers who do it, because they figured out a way to game the system and make money, and that's amazing. So I'd be down to see you guys play Party at Tiffany Burrell's house. Yeah, we'll do a game probably this summer. I mean, if it's a party game, we could probably tie something in with the 4th of July.
It's usually, I think the setting's always more of it's a end of year school party or something like that.
When's end of year high school in the States? Or does it like vary per state?
No, it's usually June. June's when.
Okay, so pretty much ours is June 21st. The moment summer hits. Unless June 21st is like a Wednesday or something, then some schools will extend it to the end of the week. But otherwise, it's like the moment the date turns to June 21st, school's out. So we can probably tie it with that and like cosplay ourselves or cosplay what is it? Prom attire.
Oh gosh, no.
I mean, my prom attire was medieval clothing. So, because
Was
I
it really?
was, yeah, yeah. Me and two of my friends, we went in medieval clothing because we were like, I don't like any of the suits for man. Uh, I I I want to be different. So we had that, and I mean that was cool. We spent prom sitting and chatting with the teachers at the teacher table because that was the type of person I was. And then I came home and we played Dragon Ball Z until the sun rose. I think it was Dragon Ball Z Budokai Fighter, the first one, on PS2. I was a nerd. But yeah, so aside from Party at Tiffany's that we might play at some point, um, we are playing here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, Scion, which is a mythic storytelling. So think like Percy Jackson or American Gods. Actually, Scion was directly inspired by American Gods, so that's what it is. Um, and then at 9, we have the second part of the four-part series of Omens Rising with the development team. So they're doing it's basically a half and half show where they're gonna play for the first half and then they're gonna talk about, mechanics and everything in the second half. And see like if there is anything that needs tweaking and whatnot. So it's a cool also like view of like the under the hood of what goes on in game design. Uh, then on I have nothing on Sunday anymore. On Monday, 8:30 p.m., we get back to our Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign. And then Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, nothing for now. But starting the week after, I'm gonna announce it anyway. It's gonna be Malifaux. And then Thursday, the premiere of Sentinels of the Multiverse. And then the next Friday, we're gonna be playing Cyberpunk Red again. And then I
Yes.
have to squeeze in some just chatting stream because that was fun. So I'll see what I'll see what I can do. But thank you for coming, everyone. Thank you for sticking in chat. Thank you for like all the follows, the raids. Thank you for the subscriptions. Y'all were amazing. It was quite fun to just talk about this and that. De rien, Pramster. And have a good night, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Take care, everybody.